Before the light arrives, the valley belongs to the river. You can hear it before you can see anything at all, a low and patient sound moving somewhere below you in the dark, neither hurried nor slow, simply continuing the way water has continued here for longer than there are words to measure. The air is warm and close and faintly green, heavy with the smell of wet fern and crushed leaves and the sweet rot of fallen seed cones. Nothing in this place is in a rush. Nothing here has anywhere to be. You are standing at the edge of a wide floodplain in a world that is almost unimaginably old and almost unimaginably young. The grasses that will one day cover such places have not yet been invented. There are no flowers to speak of, no bird song in the branches, no small bright voices in the undergrowth. Instead, there are ferns the height of a standing person, and horsetails clustered along the water like green reeds left over from an older design, and tall conifers whose tops are lost in the last of the night mist. The quiet is not empty. It is full, the way a held breath is full. Far off, across the pale ribbon of the river, something very large shifts its weight. You feel it before you understand it, a soft tremor passing up through the damp ground and into the soles of your feet, gentle as a heartbeat heard through a wall. It is not a threat. It is only a body of enormous size settling more comfortably into the dark, the way you might turn once on a pillow without ever truly waking. The tremor fades. The river goes on. The smell of the ferns rises around you like something poured. This is the place where you are going to rest tonight. Not the world you left behind, with its clocks and its corners and its 100 small unfinished things, but here, in this warm and breathing valley at the bottom of deep time, where the largest creatures that have ever walked the earth move slowly through the mist and ask nothing of you at all. You have only to stay. You have only to listen. Let your shoulders lower. Let the river keep its steady promise that the night will hold, and that morning, when it comes, will come gently. There is nowhere else you need to be. Let yourself arrive here slowly. There is no door to walk through, no path you must find in the dark. You are simply present now, a quiet witness standing at the margin of a Jurassic valley some 150 million years before anyone will think to give it a name. The continents are not yet arranged the way you would recognize them. The map of the world is being drawn and redrawn by forces too slow to watch, and on the surface of all that slow rearrangement, in one warm green basin between low hills, life is doing what life does best, which is simply to continue. Feel the temperature of the air against your skin. It is warm here, warmer than the world you know, and more even, with less difference between the heat of the day and the cool of the night. The seasons turn, but softly. There is a wet time and a drier time, a season of rains and a season of dust, and the great animals of the valley move through both, with the unhurried patience of creatures who have never once been late. You do not need to move with them yet. For now you need only stand and breathe and let the smell of the place settle into you. Above you the conifers rise in dark green tiers, their branches arranged like the rungs of patient ladders, their resin sharp and clean in the damp air. Around their feet grow the cycads, squat and palm-like, crowned with stiff fronds, and the tree ferns with their soft, uncurling tops, and the low carpets of smaller ferns that cover every spare patch of ground in 1,000 shades of the same gentle green. There is no grass, there are no daisies in the meadow, because there are no meadows and no daisies, not for 100 million years more. There is only this older, deeper green, and it is enough. It is more than enough. The river is the spine of the valley, and you will come to know it well tonight. It is not one clean channel, but many, a braid of shallow streams that wander across the flat floor of the basin, splitting and rejoining around long, low islands of sand and silt. In the wet season, the braids swell and merge into a single, broad sheet of moving water. In the dry season, they shrink to threads, and the islands grow, and the animals follow the water wherever it chooses to go. The river decides a great deal in this valley, quietly, without ever raising its voice. And the valley has a ruler, though she does not know the word, and would not care for it if she did. She is the oldest and the largest of the great long-necked giants that feed along the river, a towering creature with a neck like a slow grey tower, and legs like the trunks of living trees. She has walked this valley for longer than most of its other inhabitants have been alive. She knows the safe crossings and the deep places, the stands of good browse and the hollows where the night air pools cold. The others move aside for her, not from fear, but from the simple deference that very old and very large things command. In your mind, for tonight, you may call her the Queen of the Valley. You are going to follow her, gently, through the long arc of a single day and the night that comes after, and through the turning of the valley's quiet seasons. You will watch her wake in the mist and feed in the high green canopy. You will watch her cross the river and rest in the heat of the noon, and stand guard over her kind beneath the slow wheel of unfamiliar stars. There is no danger here that needs your attention. There is no plot you must keep hold of. The story moves the way the river moves, without effort, and you are free to let your grip on it loosen whenever you like. So settle yourself however you are most comfortable. Let the weight of your body be held entirely by whatever is beneath it. There is nothing to carry here, nothing to decide, nothing to remember. The valley does not need you to be awake. It will go on breathing its warm green breath whether your eyes are open or closed, and the Queen will walk her slow rounds through the ferns, whether or not you follow every step. If you drift, you drift. If you sleep, you sleep. The river will hold the night for you, the way it has held every night in this valley since before the first of the great animals took its first slow step across the sand. If you enjoy listening to sleepy prehistoric dinosaur stories like this, subscribe. I post stories like this weekly. The first change is not light, but colour. For a long while the valley is grey, every shape a darker grey against a paler one, the conifers a deep slate and the mist a soft pearl, and the river a flat sheet of pewter winding between them. Then, so slowly that you cannot name the moment it begins, the grey starts to warm. A faint rose enters the mist along the eastern hills. The undersides of the highest branches catch the first of it and hold it, and the world begins, very quietly, to remember its colours. The Queen is already standing. She did not lie down in the night, for a body of her size does not lower itself to the ground lightly, and rising again is slow work that she prefers to avoid. Instead, she dozed on her feet, the way the great long-necked giants do, her huge body still and her long neck curved gently back upon itself, her head resting low against the dark mass of her shoulders. Now, as the roselight spreads, she lifts that head, and the movement is so unhurried that the mist barely stirs around it. Watch the sheer size of her resolve out of the fog. Her body is a long, warm hill, deep-chested and broad-backed, sloping up toward the shoulders the way certain hills slope, gathering all their height at one end. Her front legs are longer than her back legs, so that her shoulders ride high and her neck rises from them like a great grey beam set at an angle against the sky. The neck goes up, and up, far higher than the tops of the tree ferns, far higher than you would think any living thing could lift a head and keep it there. At the top of it, small and almost delicate by comparison, her head turns slowly into the new light. She breathes, and you can hear it, a long, slow draw of air through nostrils set high on her great skull, and a longer, slower release. The breath of so large an animal is not loud. It is deep and soft and even, a sound more felt than heard, and there is something in its steadiness that loosens the muscles of your own shoulders without your deciding it. In and out, the mist drawn faintly toward her, and faintly away. The whole valley seems to breathe with her, the conifers exhaling their resin, the ferns exhaling their green damp, the river exhaling its cool. Around her, lower down in the fog, the rest of her kind are also waking. They are scattered across the floodplain in a loose and shifting company, perhaps a dozen of the great long-necked giants, some nearly her equal in size and some half-grown and some smaller still, the young ones kept toward the centre of the group where the older bodies form a slow living wall around them. None of them are truly close to one another. Animals so large need space simply to stand, and the herd is not a tight cluster, but a wide and gentle constellation, each body its own warm landmark in the lifting mist. The Queen takes her first step of the day, and the ground tells you about it. You feel the soft thud of it travel out through the damp soil, a low pulse that reaches your feet, a heartbeat after her foot has come to rest. Then the second step, and the third, each one deliberate, each one placed, the broad round pads of her feet spreading under her weight and sinking a little into the soft ground and lifting free again with a faint wet sound. She is not going anywhere in particular. She is only beginning to move, the way you might stretch on waking, letting the long machinery of her body warm itself into the day. The light grows. The rose in the mist deepens to gold, and then the gold begins to burn away the fog itself, lifting it in slow curtains off the surface of the river. As the curtains rise, you see more of the valley revealed beneath them, the long sandbars pale and clean, the dark stands of horsetail along the channels, the broad green sweep of the fern prairie climbing toward the conifer forest on the lower slopes of the hills. It is a wide and generous place, and in the new light it looks almost newly made, washed and quiet and waiting. A small herd of other animals is already at the water's edge, low to the ground and quick where the giants are tall and slow. These are not long-necked at all. They walk on two legs, lightly, their bodies balanced by long, stiff tails held out behind them, and they bend their small heads to drink with a wary economy of movement, lifting them often to look about. They are plant-eaters too, but of a different sort, built for speed rather than for size, and they keep a careful distance from the great feet of the giants, knowing that those feet do not look down. The queen pays them no attention at all. She has reached the edge of a stand of tall conifers now, and here she stops. Her neck begins to rise, unfolding upward in a single smooth motion that seems to take a very long time, until her small head is among the high green branches that nothing else in the valley can reach. This is what the long neck is for. While the low herds crop the ferns and the horsetails near the ground, the queen feeds in a country of her own, a high green country in the tops of the trees, and there is no one up there to compete with her. The valley has divided its food between its animals as neatly as if someone had planned it, though no one has. You hear the first feeding of the day, a soft tearing and stripping as her blunt peg-like teeth rake a branch and pull its needles free. She does not chew. She gathers and swallows, and gathers again, working steadily along the branch and then moving her head to the next, the whole long neck swinging slowly through the canopy like the boom of some patient crane. The needles go down into a body so vast that a single mouthful means almost nothing to it, and so she will feed like this for hours, quietly, without haste, asking the forest for a little and a little and a little more. The sun clears the eastern hills at last, and the full warmth of it pours into the valley. You feel it on your face and your arms, gentle and even, the particular soft heat of this old world that never quite becomes harsh. The mist is gone now, lifted entirely away, and the river runs bright between its sandbars, and the ferns hold small beads of dew that the warmth begins to draw up into the air. Steam rises faintly from the backs of the giants where the dew has gathered there in the night. The valley is awake, and the queen feeds on, high in her green country, in no hurry at all. There is a whole day ahead of her, and she has spent 10,000 such days, and she knows without thinking it that the way to spend them is slowly. Whatever the day will bring, it will bring at its own pace, and there is no profit in reaching for it. For now there is only the warmth on her grey hide, and the soft tearing of needles, and the long patient swing of her neck through the high branches, and the river going on below. There is only the morning, and it is enough. But the river, you may begin to notice, is not quite as high this morning as it was. The wet season is ending, somewhere out beyond the hills, and the braids of water are drawing in toward their threads. The queen does not know this yet in any way she could tell you, but somewhere in the slow wisdom of her body, she has begun to feel the year turning, and in the days to come that turning will set the whole valley quietly in motion. For now, though, there is no need to think of it. For now there is only the feeding, and the warmth, and the long green morning. Let it hold you a while. Let your attention widen now, away from the queen for a moment, out across the whole green basin she calls home, so that you can hold the shape of it gently in your mind. It will help you to rest if you know the country a little, the way it helps to know the layout of a house before you sleep in it. There is nothing here you need to remember, but the knowing settles the mind, and a settled mind drifts more easily into the dark. The valley is long and broad and shallow, a wide trough between two ranges of low and ancient hills worn smooth by uncountable rains. From the air, if you could rise above it, you would see it as a great green band, running roughly east to west, with the silver braid of the river threaded down its centre. The hills to the north are gentler, and the hills to the south are steeper, and the morning sun comes over the eastern end, and the evening light pours away to the west, and the whole basin tilts so faintly toward the sea that the river takes a slow lifetime to cross it. Down the middle runs the floodplain, flat and open, floored with sand and silt laid down by 10,000 floods. This is the country of the giants. Here the ground is soft and damp and the going is easy for heavy feet, and here the tall conifers grow in scattered stands rather than dense forest, their high branches offering the browse that only the long-necked can reach. The fern prairie spreads between the stands in a low green sea, broken by clumps of cycads and by the dark vertical strokes of horsetails wherever the ground stays wet. There is space here, a great deal of space, and the giants need it. Toward the edges of the basin, where the land begins to lift toward the hills, the open floodplain gives way to thicker forest. The conifers crowd closer there, and ginkgos spread their fan-shaped leaves in the gaps, and the underbrush of tree ferns and cycads grows dense and tangled and cool. This is a different country, a closed and shaded country, and different animals keep to it, the smaller and the quicker and the more secretive. The giants rarely go there. Their size, which is their safety in the open, becomes a burden among close-growing trunks, and so they hold to the broad floor of the valley where the sky is wide above them. The river itself is the great fact of the place, and you have heard it all night. It rises somewhere in the eastern hills and gathers as it comes, and by the time it reaches the heart of the valley it has spread into its many braided channels, wandering and rejoining across the flat. The water is shallow over most of its width, warm and slow, the colour of weak tea where it runs over sand. But there are deeper places too, long pools below cut banks where the channels swing close to the hills, and these deep places are cooler and darker, and the animals know to be careful at their edges. You will learn why, gently, before the night is done. Along the channels grow the horsetails, in dense green stands taller than a tall man, their jointed stems rising straight and ribbed from the wet ground, crowned with halls of needle-fine branches. They are an old kind of plant, older than the conifers, older than almost everything green in the valley, and they grow wherever water lingers, in soft hissing thickets that the low herds wade into to feed. When the wind moves through them, they make a sound like distant rain, a dry green whispering, and it is one of the gentlest sounds in all the valley. Between the river and the forest lies the fern prairie, and this is the heart of the open country, the great larder of the low-feeding herds. It is not a single kind of fern, but many, knee-high and waist-high and head-high, their fronds uncurling and overlapping in soft layers, holding the morning dew and the evening cool. To walk through it, if you were small enough to walk through it, would be to move through a green and humid forest of your own height, full of the smell of damp earth and crushed leaf. The low herds graze across it in slow drifts, and where they have passed they leave broad, soft trails pressed flat, which fill themselves in again within a day or two. Here and there across the prairie stand the cycads, squat and patient, their thick trunks crowned with stiff radiating fronds, looking from a distance, like nothing so much as enormous green pineapples set out across the plain. They are slow growers and slow seeders, and the animals strip their fronds and leave the tough trunks standing, so that an old cycad may wear the marks of 100 years of browsing and never seem to mind. They are among the most ancient citizens of the valley, and they will outlast many of the creatures that feed upon them, standing through droughts and floods alike with the deep indifference of very old plants. Above all of it rise the conifers, the tallest living things in the valley, their crowns lifting 200 feet and more into the warm air. Some are kin to the monkey puzzle trees of a later world, their branches stiff and symmetrical and armoured with sharp spiralled leaves. Others are softer, their needles fine and their forms more open, and it is these that the giants prefer to feed upon. The conifers make the high green country where the queen spends her days, and their fallen needles carpet the ground beneath them in soft brown drifts that crunch faintly under heavy feet, and their resin gives the whole valley its clean, sharp underscent. And over everything arches the sky, wide and pale and warm, emptier than the sky you know. There are no birds in it. The branches hold no nests, the dawn holds no chorus, and the air at this hour is crossed only by insects and, now and then, by the leathery shapes of the flying reptiles that ride the warming air. It is a quieter sky, and a stranger one, but it is not a lonely sky. It is simply a sky that has not yet been filled with song, and there is a deep peace in its silence, a peace that belongs to a world still patiently inventing itself. This, then, is the shape of the valley, the river down the middle, braided and patient, the floodplain broad and soft, the country of the giants, the fern prairie between, the larder of the low herds, The thick forest at the edges, the country of the small and secret, the hills worn smooth all around, and the wide, warm sky above. Hold it loosely. You do not need to keep it. It is only a place to rest, and now you know its rooms, and a known place is an easy place to sleep in. The queen, when you return your attention to her, has barely moved. She is still feeding in the high branches at the prairie's edge, her neck swinging slow through the canopy, and the morning has warmed another degree around her. But somewhere downriver, where the channels run shallow over a long pale bar of sand, the water has dropped enough in the night to uncover a crossing that was hidden yesterday. The queen will find it, in her own time, when the day's slow logic carries her that way. For now, there is only the feeding, and the green, and the patient shape of the valley holding you. Rest in it a while, come back to the queen now, and look more closely at the strange and beautiful machine of her body, because there is nothing else like it in all the world you know, and to understand a little of how it works is to feel the quiet wonder of it settle over you like a blanket. She is built for one thing above all others, which is to be enormous, and everything about her serves that single magnificent purpose. Begin with the neck, since the neck is the wonder of her. It rises from her shoulders longer than the whole body of any other animal in the valley, a slow grey tower of bone and muscle, and yet for all its length it is astonishingly light. If it were solid, it could never be lifted at all, but it is not solid. The great vertebrae that form it are hollowed and scooped and tunnelled, riddled with air spaces, so that each bone is more empty than full, a structure of struts and arches like the inside of something built rather than grown. The neck is a cathedral made of air and bone, and that is why she can hold it up against the sky. Those same air spaces run on into her body, threaded through her bones and looped through her chest in a system of soft air sacs that no animal you know possesses. When she breathes, the air does not simply go in and come out again the way yours does. It moves through her in a long one-way current, filling the sacs and then passing forward through her lungs, so that fresh air flows across the breathing surfaces, whether she is drawing in or letting out. It is a more efficient way to breathe than your own, and it is the same design, in its deep bones, that the birds of a later world will one day carry into the sky. But there are no birds yet. For now, this clever breathing belongs to the giants. The neck lets her reach what nothing else can reach. While the low herds strip the ferns and the horsetails near the ground, and the medium browsers take the cycads and the lower branches, the queen lifts her small head into the high crowns of the conifers and feeds in a country all her own. Nothing competes with her there. No other mouth in the valley can climb so high without climbing, and so the topmost green of every tree is hers alone, a private upper pasture that renews itself with every season. The valley feeds all its plant-eaters by giving each of them a different height to feed at, and the queen has claimed the highest height of all. Her head, at the top of all that length, is almost comically small, no larger in proportion than a fist at the end of a long arm. It does not need to be large. It is not a head built for thinking great thoughts, nor for chewing, nor for fighting. It is a gathering tool, a simple, efficient instrument with a wide, blunt muzzle and a row of stout peg-like teeth set at the front, like the tines of a rake. With those teeth she strips the needles from the branches in long pulling rakes, and she does not chew them at all. She swallows them whole, down the long pipe of her throat, into the vast fermenting dark of her body. And there the real work of digestion is done. For her body is a great slow furnace of fermentation, and this is the secret of how so large an animal can live on so poor a food. Conifer needles are tough and waxy and not very nourishing, and a smaller animal could never extract enough from them to live. But the queen does not need to chew or to digest quickly. She has time, and she has room. The needles she swallows pass into an enormous gut where countless tiny living things, too small to see, break them down slowly over many days, drawing out every last scrap of energy from the leaves. Her size gives her the room for this slow process, and the slow process gives her the food to maintain her size, and so the one thing serves the other, round and round, a circle with no beginning. That same great furnace keeps her warm. An animal of her size, once warmed by the day, holds its heat through the night, the way a great stone holds the warmth of the sun, long after the sun has gone. She does not need to shiver to make heat, nor to bask to gather it. Her sheer bulk steadies her against the swings of the air, so that while the small, quick animals of the valley must hide from the noon heat and huddle from the night chill, The queen moves through both at the same even pace, neither too hot nor too cold, carrying her own slow weather inside her. It is one of the deep advantages of being enormous, and she has it without ever knowing she has it. Her legs are pillars, straight and massive, the front pair longer than the back so that her whole frame slopes up toward the high shoulders and the rising neck. The bones within them are not hollow like the bones of her neck. They are dense and solid, columns of living stone, and they must be, for they carry a weight that you could hardly bring yourself to believe. Her feet are broad and round, spreading under her like soft cushions, each one ending in short, blunt nails, and behind the nails a great pad of springy tissue that absorbs the shock of every step and spreads her weight across the soft ground. She walks the floodplain the way a careful person walks on ice, deliberately, testing, never quite trusting the earth to be solid. And her tail balances the whole of her, a long tapering counterweight held out behind, swinging slow as she walks to keep her great mass in trim. It is not a weapon in her, not the way it is in some of her kind, but it is a help and a balance and a thing to lean upon, and at rest it lies along the ground behind her like a fallen grey branch. When she turns, the tail swings wide, and the low herds have learned to give it room. Everything about her is large, and the largeness is not clumsiness. It is a slow and total grace, the grace of something that has solved the hardest problem of all, which is simply how to be so big and still to live. Watch her feed now with all of this in mind, and the watching becomes a kind of meditation. The neck rises, the small head finds a branch, the peg teeth rake the needles free, the throat carries them down into the great warm dark of her, the neck swings to the next branch, and the whole patient cycle begins again. There is no waste in it, and no hurry. She has been doing this since before you were born into your own far country, and she will do it until the light fails, and there is something in its endless gentle repetition that asks the mind to let go of its own restless reaching, and simply watch and breathe, and be still. She does not think about any of this, of course. She does not know that her bones are hollowed for lightness, nor that her gut is a furnace, nor that her bulk is a kind of weather. She only knows the warmth on her hide, and the taste of the needles, and the height of the green, and the slow contentment of a body doing exactly what it was made to do. Perhaps that is the deepest peace of all, to be so perfectly suited to your one place in the world that there is nothing left to want. The Queen has that peace. Tonight, perhaps, you may borrow a little of it. The sun has climbed higher while she fed, and the shadows have drawn in close beneath the trees, and the warmth of the valley has deepened toward the heavy heat of midday. Down at the river, the low herds are beginning to drift back from the water toward the shade. The Queen, too, will move soon, drawn by the same old logic of the day toward water and toward rest. But she will move in her own time, and her own time is slow, and there is no need for you to hurry ahead of her. Stay in the high green country a while longer. Watch the neck swing slow against the pale sky. Let the day grow warm around you, and let yourself grow heavy and rest. The Queen does not live alone, though her size might make you imagine she would. All around her, across the broad floor of the valley, move the others of her kind, the long-necked giants, scattered in their loose and shifting company through the morning light. They are not a tight herd in the way that smaller animals gather into herds. They are too large for that. But they are a company nonetheless, a slow constellation of great bodies that drifts across the floodplain together, and there is comfort in the company, and there is safety, and there is something almost like family. Count them, gently, as they feed. There is the Queen, the largest and the oldest, her grey hide darkened and roughened by the long years. There are 3 or 4 others nearly her equal, great cows in their prime, their bodies deep and their necks high. There are several half-grown ones, awkward in the way that half-grown things are, their proportions not yet settled, feeding lower down because their necks have not yet reached their full height. And toward the centre of the group, kept always within the shelter of the larger bodies, move the young ones, the small ones, no taller at the shoulder than the great legs that surround them. The young are the reason for the shape of the company. A grown giant has little to fear in the valley, for there is almost nothing that would dare to trouble a body so large. But the young are another matter. They are born small, astonishingly small for what they will become, and they grow with a speed that is hard to credit. But in their first seasons they are vulnerable, and they know it, and the herd knows it, And so the company arranges itself around them without ever seeming to decide to, the great bodies forming a slow-moving wall, and the young feeding safe in the green shade between the pillars of their elders' legs. Watch one of the young ones now. It is perhaps the size of a large pony, though it will one day be the size of its mother, and it moves with the bright, quick energy that all young things have and all old things have set aside. It darts a few steps and stops, crops a frond, lifts its head to look about, darts again. Its neck is still short, its head still large in proportion, its whole body still gathered and compact in the way of the young. It stays close to one particular great cow, never straying more than a few body lengths from her, and when it wanders a little too far she swings her huge head down toward it, slow and deliberate, and it scampers back into the safe green shadow of her bulk. The giants speak to one another, though not in any voice you would call a voice. Mostly they speak through the ground. A great body shifting its weight, a foot coming down, a tail dragging across the sand. All of these send their soft, low pulses out through the soil, and the others feel them and read them without ever lifting their heads. The herd moves as one slow organism this way, each member feeling the others around it through the trembling earth, drifting together and apart in a wordless conversation that has no need of sound. When the queen begins, at last, to move toward the water, the others will feel her decision in the ground before they see it, and slowly, one by one, they will turn to follow. Now and then one of them does make a sound, a low rumbling call that you feel in your chest as much as hear, a deep note pitched almost below the edge of hearing. A cow calling to her young, perhaps, or one of the great animals simply announcing its presence to the rest. The note rolls out across the floodplain and fades, and somewhere another answers it, and then the silence settles again. They are not talkative creatures, they have no need to be, but the occasional deep call, rolling slow across the warm morning air, is one of the most peaceful sounds in the valley, a sound like a far-off door closing softly in a very large and very quiet house. There is a gentleness in how they move around one another, a courtesy born of size. When two great bodies come near, they do not jostle or push. They ease apart, each giving the other room, each aware through the patient sense of the ground of exactly where the other stands. An animal so large cannot afford a careless collision, and so they have learned over the long generations a deep and instinctive politeness, a way of sharing the crowded floodplain without friction. Watching them drift past one another, never quite touching, always making space, is like watching very large ships move slowly through a calm harbour, each holding its course, each leaving room. The queen holds the centre of all this without effort. She does not lead the company the way a captain leads, with commands and corrections. She leads simply by being what she is, the oldest and the largest and the surest, the one who knows the valley best. When she moves toward a particular stand of trees, the others tend to drift that way after her, because over the long years they have learned that where she goes, the feeding is good and the ground is safe. Her authority is not in any act of ruling. It is in the accumulated trust of 100 seasons, the quiet certainty that she has done all this before and come through, and that to follow her is to be safe. And she, for her part, keeps a kind of watch over them, though it is not a watch you could easily see. As she feeds in the high branches, her small head turning slow at the top of its long neck, she takes in the whole spread of the company below, the position of each great body, the gathering of the young toward the centre, the line of the river, the edge of the forest. She is not anxious. There is nothing to be anxious about. This morning. But the long habit of attention is in her, the habit of an old animal that has survived by knowing where everything is, and it costs her nothing to keep it, and it gives the whole company the unspoken assurance that someone, somewhere, is awake to the world. The morning deepens, and the company feeds on, drifting slowly across the floodplain in its loose grey constellation. The young dart and crop and dart again. The great cows strip the branches with their long necks. The deep calls roll out now and then and fade. The river runs bright below, and the heat builds gently toward the noon, and over it all the queen keeps her slow, high watch, content. There is no urgency anywhere in the scene. There is only the long, warm morning, and the company of giants moving through it, and the deep and ancient peace of creatures who have, for now, everything they need. Soon they will move toward the water, all of them together, in the slow migration of a single morning, and you will go with them down to the river's edge and watch them drink. But not yet. For now there is only this, the gentle drift of the company across the green, the courtesy of their movement, the soft pulse of their conversation through the ground. Let it carry you. There is nothing here to hold on to, and nothing here to fear. The giants will keep their slow company through the morning whether you watch or not, and if your eyes should close, they will keep it still, and the river will go on, and the night, when it comes again, will be gentle. Rest now in the slow company of giants. When the queen finally turns toward the water, she does it so gradually that you might not notice the moment it begins. One slow step is angled a little differently from the last. The great neck comes down out of the high branches and folds itself back toward her shoulders. Her huge body, which has stood feeding in one place for the whole long morning, begins at last to travel, and the ground beneath you takes up the soft rhythm of her walking, a low pulse repeated and repeated as she makes her unhurried way down toward the river. The others feel her go. One by one across the floodplain the great bodies turn, reading her movement through the trembling earth, and fall into the same slow drift toward the water. It is not a march and not a stampede. It is a tide, a gradual gathering of the whole loose company in a single direction, the giants converging on the river the way that water itself converges, by the gentle pull of the lowest ground. The young ones are swept along in the middle of it, kept close, their quick steps matching 3 of theirs to one of their elders. The river receives them without alarm. As the giants approach, the low herds already at the water lift their heads and move aside, drifting off along the bank to drink elsewhere, ceding the broad, shallow approach to the larger animals without protest. There is room enough for all. The river here is wide and patient, spread thin across its bed of pale sand, and a dozen great animals may come down to drink along its margin without ever crowding one another. The queen leads them to a long, gentle shelf, where the bank slopes down easy into the shallows, a place she has drunk from 1,000 times. She wades into the depth of her broad feet, no further, and lowers the great length of her neck. This is no small act for an animal built as she is built. To bring her small head all the way down from its towering height to the surface of the water is to send a great deal of blood downhill very quickly, and her body has its own slow ways of managing this, valves and pressures you cannot see, so that she does not falter or grow faint. The neck comes down in a long smooth curve, lower and lower, until at last her muzzle touches the water, and she drinks. The drinking is a quiet, enormous sound. She does not lap. She draws the water up in long, slow pulls, her throat working, and you can see the swallows travel down the length of her neck as visible waves, one after another, sliding down that grey column toward her body. A great deal of water disappears into her with each draught, and she will drink for a long time, steadily, replacing all that the warm morning has drawn out of her. The river barely notices. It goes on running past her feet, around her feet, between the other great legs that are wading in along the shelf, indifferent and patient and cool. Stand a moment in the sound of it. The whole company is drinking now, a dozen long necks lowered to the water all along the gentle bank, and the air is full of the soft, enormous music of it, the pulling and the swallowing, the lap of disturbed water against the sand, the occasional deep sigh of a great body easing into the cool shallows. Dragonflies the size of your hand skim the surface on glassy wings, and where the sunlight strikes the water it throws bright wavering lines up onto the grey hides of the giants, so that they seem faintly lit from below, dressed in moving light. The young ones drink too, down at the safe centre of the company, their short necks needing only a small bend to reach the water. One of them, bolder than the rest, wades a little deeper than it should, until the cool water laps up around its belly, and it stands there a moment in evident pleasure, feeling the river move against its sides. Then a great cow shifts toward it, slow and deliberate, and without quite herding it, eases it back toward the shallows, back toward the safe margin where the water is only a hand deep over the warm sand. The young one goes, reluctant, looking back at the deeper cool it has been denied. For the river, you remember, has its deeper places, and the deeper places must be treated with care. Not here, not at this gentle drinking shelf where the water runs thin and clear over sand, but further along, where the channel swings close against a cut bank and the pool runs dark and slow, there are things that wait in the deep water with great patience, and the young of the giants are not too large for them. The cows know this. It is why the company drinks at the shallow shelf and not at the deep pool. why the young are kept from wading too far, why the whole long habit of the herd bends, without anxiety, toward the safe and away from the dark. You will meet those waiting things soon, gently. For now, the company is safe in the shallows. The queen lifts her head at last, the long neck rising again in its slow, smooth arc, and water runs from her muzzle in bright threads, falling back to the river in a thin, glittering curtain. She has drunk her fill. She stands a while in the shallows, simply resting, the cool water around her feet and the warm sun on her back, her body caught between two comforts. And there is in her stance a deep and complete contentment, the contentment of an animal that wants for nothing in this particular moment of this particular morning. You could learn that stillness from her if you let yourself. The wanting for nothing. The standing in the cool and the warm at once, asking the world for nothing more than it is already giving. Around her the company drinks and rests and drifts, and the morning holds its warmth, and the river runs on. There is no hurry to leave the water. The day is long, and the heat is only beginning to build toward its noon weight, and a wise old animal knows to drink deep and rest in the cool, while the cool is to be had. The queen will lead them across the river later, to the good feeding on the far bank, but the crossing can wait until the worst of the heat, when the shade on the far side will be welcome. For now there is only the drinking shelf, and the bright water, and the slow contentment of the gathered giants. Let the sound of the river hold you, the pulling and the swallowing and the soft lap against the sand. Let it carry you down toward rest. As the sun climbs toward its height, the queen turns her attention across the water to the far bank where a long stand of soft-needled conifers offers feeding she has not yet touched today, and shade that the near bank cannot give. Between her and that far green lies the river, and she must cross it. She has crossed it 10,000 times. But each crossing is its own slow event, considered and careful, and you will see now why an animal of such size moves through water with such deliberate attention. She does not cross at the deep pool, of course, nor at the drinking shelf, which slopes too quickly toward the channel. She moves instead along the bank, downstream, reading the water with her feet and her old long memory, until she comes to the place she was looking for, the long pale bar of sand that the dropping river uncovered in the night. Here the water runs at its thinnest, spread wide across a broad shallow flat where the channel divides around the bar, and a great animal may walk across with the water never rising past the knees of its towering legs. This is the crossing, and she has known it her whole life, and she knew without quite knowing that the falling river would have opened it again. She steps onto the bar and begins to wade. Watch how she places each foot. She does not stride, she tests. The broad pad of her foot comes down slow onto the sand beneath the water, settles, takes a portion of her weight, and only when she is sure the footing will hold does she trust the whole of her weight to it and lift the next foot free. The sand of a river bar can be firm in one place and soft in another, and a misstep for an animal of her weight could mean a leg trapped in the wet ground. And so she goes carefully, reading the bottom through her feet, never hurrying, never careless. The water parts around her legs in long, smooth wakes that spread downstream and slowly fade. Small fish, startled from the shadows of her feet, dart away in silver flickers across the sunlit sand. The current pushes gently against her, and she leans into it by a degree you would hardly notice, her great body adjusting its balance with the unconscious skill of long practice, and crosses on, slow and sure, the picture of patience made enormous. Halfway across she pauses, simply to stand a while in the cool moving water, and the river runs around her, and she is in no hurry to reach the other side. Behind her the company follows, but not all at once. The crossing is taken one or two at a time, the great cows wading after her in a loose, unhurried line, and the young ones brought across in the safest way the herd can manage, each small one walking close against the downstream flank of a great cow, sheltered there from the push of the current by the breakwater of the larger body. It is a thing the herd does without being taught, this sheltering of the young in the lee of the old, and it is one of the gentlest sights in all the long day. The small bodies wading carefully in the calm water behind the great ones, protected from the river by the simple bulk of their elders. One half-grown giant, not quite young enough to walk in the lee and not quite old enough to be sure of itself, hesitates at the water's edge, uncertain. The crossing it has made before, but the river is never exactly the same, and some old caution holds it on the bank a moment, shifting its weight, eyeing the bright moving water. Then the great cow nearest to it lifts her head and lets out one of the low rolling calls, a deep note that you feel in the soles of your feet, and the half-grown one seems to take some reassurance from it, and steps down into the shallows, and begins to wade. The cow waits, watching, until it is safely across. Then she follows. There is no drama in the crossing, and that is the wonder of it. A lesser telling might make of it a struggle, a peril, a thing of churning water and narrow escape. But that is not how it is. It is slow and careful and entirely successful, the way it has been 1,000 times before, the way it will be 1,000 times again. The giants cross the shallows because the giants know the shallows, and because the old queen leads them to the right place at the right time, and because the river, for all its quiet power, is patient with those who treat it with care. Watching them cross is like watching a long familiar task done well, and there is a deep restfulness in that, in competence, in the sure, unhurried doing of a difficult thing made easy by long knowing. The queen reaches the far bank and climbs the gentle slope out of the water, and the river runs from her in sheets, darkening the sand behind her. She does not look back to see that the others follow. She knows they will. She walks a little way up the bank, into the first of the shade beneath the far conifers, and there she stops, and lowers her head to the cool damp ferns at the water's edge, and begins, unhurried, to feed again. One by one the company climbs out behind her, shedding water, shaking it from their feet, gathering once more into their loose grey constellation in the shade of the far bank. And the river behind them smooths itself over. The wakes fade. The disturbed sand settles back. The silverfish return to the shadows of the bar. Within a little while, there is no sign at all that a dozen of the largest animals in the world have just walked across, and the crossing lies quiet and bright and empty in the noon sun, waiting for the next time the herd has need of it. The river keeps no memory and holds no grudge. It simply goes on, the way it has always gone on, patient with the giants, patient with the day, patient with the slow turning of the whole green valley toward its rest. Now the company is on the far bank, in the good shade, with the heat of the day building over the water behind them and the long afternoon ahead. They have fed and drunk and crossed, and there is nothing more the morning asks of them. The queen feeds slow in the shade. The young ones gather close. The river runs bright and empty between the two green banks. And somewhere in the deep cool pool downstream, where the giants are careful never to go, something stirs in the dark water and settles again, untroubled, unhurried, waiting only for the river and the day to bring it what it needs. But that is downstream and far, and the company is safe in the shade. Rest now. The crossing is made. The far bank is reached. There is nothing left to do but rest. There are older creatures in the valley than even the giants, and some of them live in the water, and you should meet them now, gently, while the company rests safe in the shade of the far bank. For the deep pool downstream is not empty, and the careful habits of the herd, the drinking at the shallow shelf, and the crossing at the sandy bar, and the keeping of the young from the dark water, are not idle habits. They are the slow wisdom of generations, and the reason for them waits in the cool green dark of the deep places. Drift your attention downstream, away from the giants, to where the channel swings close against a cut bank, and the water runs deep and slow and dark. The surface here is smooth, almost still, dappled with the shade of overhanging ferns, and at first it seems as quiet and empty as anywhere else in the valley. But look longer, and you will see, just breaking the surface near the bank, two small ridges of rough hide, and between them, set just above the water, two eyes. They do not move. They do not blink. They simply watch, with the deep, tireless patience of a creature that has all the time in the world. This is one of the old river dwellers, a long, low-armoured thing, kin in its deep design to the crocodiles of a later world, though not the same. Its body lies submerged along the bottom of the pool, broad and flat and plated with rough skin, its powerful tail trailing behind it in the slow current. Only its eyes and the tips of its nostrils break the surface, so that it may breathe and watch at once while the rest of it stays hidden in the dark water. It is built for stillness and for sudden speed, for waiting a very long time and then moving very fast, and it does almost all of its living in the waiting. It is not hunting now, not actively. It is simply present, holding its place in the cool water, conserving its strength, letting the warm day pass. It may not have eaten in many days, and it may not eat for many more, and this does not trouble it, for its slow, cold body asks very little and can wait a very long time between meals. This is its whole way of being, this immense patience, this stillness that costs nothing and waits for everything. There is a kind of peace in it, even the peace of a creature perfectly content to do nothing at all for as long as nothing is required. When the low herds come down to drink at the unsafe stretches of the bank, this is the danger they are wary of, and rightly. A small animal bending to the water, careless for one moment, may feel the explosion of the pool too late, the surge and the seize and the roll, and be gone beneath the surface before it understands what has happened. But the river dweller does not trouble the grown giants. They are far too large. It could no more take one of them than it could take one of the hills. And it knows this, in the way that such creatures know things. And so it does not even watch them as they cross at the distant bar. They are simply beyond it, off in their own country of size, and it leaves them to it. That is the deep grace of the queen's bulk. And of all the giants' bulk, the reason their size is more than mere splendour. To be so large is to step outside the ordinary economy of fear that governs all the smaller animals. The river dweller waits in the pool, and the low herds must reckon with it, and the small darting plant eaters must watch the water with one eye always. But the giants walk where they please. The deep pool holds no terror for them. They simply do not go there, not from fear, but from a kind of indifference, the way you might not walk through a thorn bush, not because you fear it, but because there is no reason to, and an easier way around. So you may watch the watcher in the shallows without any tightening of your own chest, without any quickening of your breath. It is not a thing to fear, here, tonight, from where you stand. It is only one more citizen of the valley, doing what it was made to do, holding its patient place in the deep water while the day passes overhead. Its stillness is total. Its eyes do not move. The ferns dip and sway above it, and a dragonfly lands on the smooth surface near its nose and lifts away again unharmed. And the deep pool holds its quiet, and nothing happens, and nothing needs to happen. In time, when the light begins to fail and the cool of evening draws the smaller animals down to the water once more, the old river dweller may rouse itself, may drift a little closer to the bank, may sink a little lower in the water until even its eyes are gone and only the faintest trace of it remains. And then it will wait, as it has waited 1,000 evenings, for the river to bring it what it needs. But that is hours away yet, and the smaller animals are wise, and most evenings the pool stays quiet and the watcher goes hungry and patient into the dark, and there is nothing in any of it to trouble your rest. The valley feeds its hunters slowly and softly, and far from where the giants stand. Let your attention drift back upstream now, away from the deep pool and its patient watcher, back to the bright shallows and the green far bank where the company rests in the shade. See how far away the danger really is, how small a part of the wide valley it holds, how easily the giants live their whole lives apart from it. The river dweller has its dark pool, and the giants have their broad floodplain, and the two seldom meet, and when they do it, is the giants who walk on untroubled. There is room in the valley for the hunter and the hunted both, and for the great ones who are neither, and the day holds them all without strain. The queen, on the far bank, has not given the deep pool a single thought. She feeds in the shade, her neck swinging slow through the soft conifers, her great body at ease. The young gather close, the river runs bright between the banks, and the watcher in the shallows holds its place in the dark water far downstream, asking nothing, threatening no one, who keeps the old wise habits. A still, cold, patient thing in a warm green world. Let it be. Let it wait its slow, patient wait without you. There is nothing here for you to guard against, and nothing for you to fear, and the night, when it comes, will be gentle. Rest now on the safe green bank, in the good shade, among the giants. Among all the strange and gentle citizens of the valley, there is one that even the queen turns her small head to watch when it passes, not from concern, but from a kind of recognition. The acknowledgement of one very old design for another. It comes wandering out of the fern prairie in the heat of the early afternoon, alone as it almost always is, a creature so unlike anything in your own far world, that to see it is to feel the deep strangeness of this old time settle over you anew. It is a heavy, low-slung animal, broad and rounded, walking slow on 4 sturdy legs, its small head carried close to the ground where it browses among the low ferns and cycads. Its back legs are taller than its front, so that its whole body slopes downward toward its head, and its spine rises in a long arch from its low shoulders to its high hips, and then descends again into a thick and powerful tail. But it is the back of it that holds your eye, for along the ridge of its spine, in a double row from neck to hips, stand a series of great flat plates of bone, broad as shields, rising from its skin like the sails of some slow, strange ship. The plates catch the afternoon light, and as the animal moves they seem almost to shift in colour, flushing and fading, for they are threaded through with channels that carry the creature's blood, and in the warming air the blood rises into them and the plates glow faintly warm. They are not armour, though they look like armour. They are too thin for that, too brittle, set edge on along the spine where they would turn no bite. They are something stranger and gentler, a way of gathering or shedding the day's heat, a row of warm flags raised along the back to catch the morning sun or to spill the noon heat into a passing breeze. The plated wanderer wears the weather on its spine and tunes itself to the day with them, slow and unbothered. At the end of its thick tail it carries the one part of itself that is truly a weapon, 4 long spikes of bone, set in 2 pairs, jutting out and back from the tail's heavy tip. It does not use them often. It is a peaceful animal, a slow and solitary browser that asks nothing of anyone, and it would far rather wander away from trouble than face it. But when it must, that tail can swing with a force that even the largest hunter respects, a low heavy arc that brings the spikes around in a wide sweep, and a hunter that has once felt that sweep does not soon forget it. So the plated wanderer browses in peace, and the peace is kept, in part, by the quiet knowledge of what the tail can do. Watch it feed. Its small head, absurdly small for so large a body, bends to the low ferns and crops them with a narrow beak, working slowly across the prairie in no particular direction, a mouthful here, a mouthful there, lifting its head now and then to the limit of its short neck to take the lower fronds of a cycad. It does not range high like the giants. Its whole country is the low country, the knee-high green of the prairie floor, and it moves through it at the pace of a slow grazing thing, with nowhere to be and nothing to fear, the warm plates glowing faintly along its back, the spiked tail trailing in the ferns behind. It pays no attention to the giants, and the giants pay little to it. They feed at different heights in different ways, and there is no quarrel between them, no competition for the same green. The plated wanderer takes the low ferns the giants' great mouths could never be bothered to crop, and the giants take the high needles the plated wanderer could never reach, and the 2 of them share the valley without friction, as the river shares its water, each to its own portion. The queen, lowering her neck for a moment to a low branch, comes near to the wanderer as it passes, and the 2 great old animals browse a little while almost side by side, neither troubling the other, 2 ancient designs feeding peaceably in the afternoon sun. There is something deeply restful in the plated wanderer, in its slowness and its solitude and its evident contentment with its own small low world. It does not gather into herds. It does not seem to need the company of its own kind beyond what the seasons require. It simply wanders, alone, through the warm green prairie, browsing where it pleases, raising its warm plates to the sun, swinging its spiked tail slow behind it, asking the world for nothing it cannot easily find. To watch it is to feel the appeal of such a life, the appeal of slowness and solitude and sufficiency, of a world small enough to be entirely enough. The afternoon heat lies heavy on the prairie now, and the plated wanderer feels it in its plates and adjusts itself to it without thought. It turns its broadside toward a passing breeze, letting the moving air draw the heat from the warm bone along its spine. It drifts toward the longer shadows at the prairie's edge. It crops a little less and rests a little more, standing still among the ferns with its small head low, letting the worst of the day pass over it. It is in no distress. It is simply doing what every animal in the valley is beginning to do as the heat builds, which is to slow and to seek the shade and to wait for the cool of evening. In time it will wander on, out of sight, into another stretch of the wide prairie, alone as it came, and you may not see it again tonight. The valley is large, and the plated wanderer keeps to its own slow circuits, and their paths and the giants' paths cross only now and then. But you have seen it now, this strange and gentle thing, this slow, armoured, peaceable wanderer with the warm flags along its spine. And the seeing of it is one more small treasure of the long day, one more proof of how full this old valley is, how various, how patiently and strangely alive. Let it go then, the plated wanderer, off into the heat shimmer at the prairie's edge, its plates flushing warm in the afternoon light, its spiked tail trailing slow behind, and let the seeing of it settle into you the way all the day's quiet sights have settled, without urgency, without grasping, one more peaceful image to rest the mind upon, as the heat builds and the valley slows, and the long afternoon draws on toward its drowse. There is no hurry. The wanderer is in no hurry. The giants are in no hurry. The valley itself is in no hurry, and neither, now, are you. Rest a while, in the heat-heavy green, and let the day grow slow around you. While the giants feed high and the plated wanderer feeds alone, the broad floor of the fern prairie belongs to the low herds, and you should spend a little of the slow afternoon among them, for they are the most numerous citizens of the valley, and the most gently busy, and there is a soft restfulness in watching their unhurried multitudes drift across the green. They are the small grazers and browsers of the prairie floor, quick where the giants are slow, many where the giants are few, and the whole low green country hums with their quiet presence. They walk on two legs, most of them, lightly, their bodies held level above the ground and balanced by long, stiff tails carried straight out behind. They are slender and graceful, built for speed, with long shins and light bones and small neat heads ending in narrow beaks. When they feed, they bend forward from the hips, cropping the low ferns with quick economical bites, and when they have fed a while they rise again and look about, for they are watchful creatures, always watchful, their large dark eyes turning constantly to the edges of the prairie and the line of the distant forest. They keep together in loose scattered herds, dozens of them spread across a stretch of prairie, never tightly bunched but never quite alone, each one within sight of others, each one taking comfort from the presence of the rest. It is the comfort of many eyes. A single small grazer must watch the whole world by itself, and can never relax, and must always feed with half its attention on the danger that might come. But a herd shares the watching out among all its members, so that while most feed, a few always look up, and the whole herd is warned at once if any one of them takes alarm. And so they can feed in something like ease, in the loose company of their own kind, trusting the herd to keep the watch that no single one of them could keep alone. Watch how they move across the prairie, drifting slowly in the direction of the best feeding, the whole loose herd flowing the same way like a current, pausing where the ferns grow thick, thinning out where they grow sparse. The young run among them, smaller and quicker and more playful, darting in bursts of sudden speed for the sheer joy of it, then settling to feed beside their mothers, then darting off again. There is a brightness to them, an energy, that the great slow giants do not have, and watching the young grazers play among the ferns is like watching swallows over an evening field, all quick light motion, all easy grace. Now and then one of them takes alarm at nothing, at a shadow, at a sound, at some flicker at the edge of its watchful eye, and freezes, head high, one foot lifted, every line of its body gone suddenly still and tense. And in a breath the alarm spreads through the nearest of the herd, and a dozen heads come up, and a dozen bodies go tense and still, all facing the same way, all waiting. And then, as often as not, nothing comes. The shadow was only a cloud. The sound was only the wind in the horsetails, and slowly the tension drains out of them, and the lifted feet come down, and the heads bend again to the ferns, and the herd settles back into its grazing as though the moment had never been. False alarms cost them little. It is the true alarms they cannot afford to miss, and so they take 100 false ones rather than miss one true. These low herds and the great giants live entirely different lives in the same green country, and yet there is an old quiet bond between them, unspoken and unsought. For the giants, in their slowness and their bulk, are a kind of moving landmark on the prairie, a sign of safety. Where the giants graze in peace, the danger is low, for the giants would feel a great hunter's approach through the ground long before a small grazer's eyes could find it, and their unconcern is itself a message. And so the low herds drift, without quite intending to, toward the company of the giants, feeding in their wide, slow shadow, taking some comfort from the great untroubled bodies moving through the green, The giants give the small ones shelter simply by being calm, and the small ones give the giants something too, though the giants would never know to call it that. They give them eyes. The low herds are watchful where the giants are not, quick to alarm where the giants are slow, and their sudden freezing, their lifted heads, their bursts of flight, are a warning that travels across the prairie faster than any tremor through the ground. A giant feeding placidly in the high branches may not trouble to watch the forest edge, but it lives among 1,000 small watchers who do nothing but watch, and when they break and run, the giant knows, in its slow way, that something is abroad. So the great and the small keep each other, each lending the other what it lacks, and neither aware of the gift. The afternoon wears on, and the heat lies heavy even on the quick low herds, and they too begin to slow. They feed less and rest more. They drift toward the longer shadows at the prairie's edge, or stand in loose drowsing clusters in the open, heads low, tails trailing, letting the worst of the day pass over them. The young still dart now and then, but with less of their morning fire, and more of them fold their legs beneath them and settle into the warm ferns to rest. The whole prairie grows still and drowsy under the weight of the noon, the low herds and the giants and the lone plated wanderer all slowing together toward the long, deep drowse of the valley's afternoon. There is no danger on the prairie now. The forest edge is quiet. The great hunters of the valley, you will find, keep their own slow hours, and the heavy heat of midday is not their time. For now the low herds rest in safety, in the loose company of their own kind and in the wider shelter of the giants, and the prairie hums with the small, soft sounds of their resting, the rustle of a shifted body, the sigh of a folded leg, the faint, dry whisper of the breeze through the ferns. It is one of the most peaceful hours of the whole long day, this heavy drowsing afternoon, and you are free to drowse along with it. So let the low herds settle into the warm green, and let the giants stand quiet in the shade, and let the whole valley slow toward its noon rest. There is nothing to watch for, and nothing to wait for. The watchful small ones have lowered their guard, because there is nothing to guard against, and if even they can rest, then surely you can rest too. Let your own watchfulness lower with theirs. Let the heavy afternoon lie over you the way it lies over the prairie, soft and warm and slow, and let yourself begin, gently, to drift down into the deep, still drowse of the valley's longest hour. There is a hunter in the valley, and you will see it now, but you will see it gently, from far off, in the slow, safe way the giants themselves regard it, and there is no need for any tightening of your breath. For the great hunter of the valley, fearsome as it is to the low herds, is no danger at all to the company of giants, and the watching of it from within their slow, safe shadow is a lesson in how size and distance can drain the menace out of even the most dangerous thing. It comes out of the forest at the prairie's far edge in the late heat of the afternoon, a tall, lean predator walking on two powerful legs, its body held level, and its long, heavy tail counterbalancing behind. It is large, larger than any of the low herds, with a deep, narrow skull and jaws set with curved and serrated teeth, and it moves with a spare, economical grace, each stride long and unhurried, its head swinging slowly side to side as it walks. Above its eyes it carries two low ridges of bone, like the brows of something always faintly frowning, and its whole aspect is one of patient, watchful intent. The low herds see it long before it draws near, and the prairie ripples with their warning. Heads come up across the green, bodies go tense and still, all turn the same way, all reading the shape at the forest edge. And then, in a soft spreading rush, the nearest of the low herds begin to move, not in panic, but in a smooth, wary withdrawal, drifting away from the hunter across the prairie, keeping always a wide margin of open ground between themselves and those long, unhurried strides. They do not run headlong. They simply keep their distance, flowing away like water from a stone dropped slowly into a pool. But watch the giants, and you will see how differently the great ones meet the hunters coming. They do not flee. They barely react at all. A few of them lift their small heads from their feeding and turn them slowly toward the distant predator, regarding it with what looks almost like mild interest. And then, finding it far off and no concern of theirs, return without hurry to the branches. The young are drawn a little closer to the centre of the company, eased gently inward by the slow shifting of the great bodies around them, but there is no alarm in it, no urgency. The giants know what they are. They know what the hunter is, and they know that the gulf of size between them is a wall the hunter cannot cross. For the hunter is not a fool, and it does not test that wall. It could no more bring down one of the great cows than it could bring down a hill, and it knows this in its blood, and it does not try. A grown giant is simply too large, too heavy, too well defended by sheer mass. And even were the hunter to risk an attack, a single sweep of that great tail, a single misplaced step of that vast foot, would end it. So the hunter does not look at the giants with hunger. It looks at them, if it looks at them at all, the way it might look at a stand of trees as part of the unremarkable furniture of the world, and it turns its attention instead toward the low herds drifting away across the prairie. It does not hurry after them either. It is not built for a long chase, and it knows that too. It hunts by patience and by ambush, by the sudden short burst rather than the endless pursuit, and a herd that has already seen it and put open ground between is a herd it will likely let alone. So it walks the prairie's edge at its own slow pace, watchful, unhurried, taking the measure of the herds, waiting perhaps for a straggler, a sick one, a young one strayed too far, and finding none, it simply walks on, a tall, lean shape moving along the tree line in the golden afternoon, neither fed nor frantic, content to wait for an easier evening. The prairie holds its wary distance until the hunter has passed, and then, slowly, it settles again. The low herds, finding the danger moving away, ease their flight and lower their heads, and return, by degrees, to their grazing, though they keep one eye toward the tree line for a long while yet. The tension drains out of the green the way it drained after the false alarms, slow and complete, until the prairie is grazing in peace once more, as though the hunter had never come. And the giants, who never truly stopped their feeding, feed on, untroubled, the young safe at their centre, the great cows stripping the branches, the queen high in her green country, with her slow neck swinging through the canopy. There is a deep reassurance in having watched this, in having seen the most dangerous creature of the valley come and go without a single moment of real peril for the company you have chosen to rest among. The danger was real for the low herds, but it was never yours, and it was never the giants', and watching it pass at a distance, watching the prairie tense and then settle, watching the great hunter walk on hungry into the gold of the afternoon, is to learn how much of fear is simply nearness, and how much of safety is simply distance, and how far away, from where you stand, all the valley's dangers truly are. The hunter dwindles along the tree line and is gone at last into the shadows of the far forest, off to wherever it spends the heavy hours, and the prairie forgets it. The light lengthens. The shadows of the giants stretch out long across the green. The low herds graze in peace, and the whole valley, having braced for a moment and found the moment passing, settles back into the deep, slow drowse of the waning afternoon, calmer now than before, the way a held breath calms a body when at last it is let go. So let the hunter go, hungry and patient, into the far trees, and let the prairie settle, and let the held breath go out of you as it goes out of the green. The danger has passed, and it was never near, and the giants stand untroubled in the gold of the long afternoon. There is nothing left to watch for now. The hardest part of the day, such as it was, is behind, and the valley turns its slow face toward evening and toward rest. Let yourself turn with it. Let the last of any watchfulness drain away. The hunter is gone. The company is safe. Rest now in the lengthening gold. There comes an hour in the middle of every day in the valley when the whole green world seems to pause, when the heat lies so heavy and so even over everything that all motion slows nearly to stillness, and the loudest sound is the drone of insects in the warm air, and even the giants stand quiet and half dreaming in the shade. These are the still hours, the deep drowse of the valley's noon, and they are perhaps the most restful hours of all, and you have arrived at them now. The sun stands high and the shadows have drawn into small dark pools beneath the trees, and the air above the prairie shivers with rising heat, so that the far edge of the forest wavers and swims as though seen through water. Nothing moves out in the open if it can help it. The low herds have withdrawn entirely into the shade at the prairie's margins, and stand or lie there in drowsing clusters, heads low, eyes half closed, waiting out the heat. The lone plated wanderer has found its own patch of shadow somewhere and gone still. Even the insects seem to slow, their drone deepening and steadying into a single, sustained, warm note that fills the whole valley like the hum of the day itself. The giants have moved into the shade of the conifers along the far bank, and there they stand in their loose grey company, doing very little, asking nothing of the heavy hour. Some of them have stopped feeding entirely. They simply stand, their great bodies still, their long necks lowered and curved gently back, their small heads resting low, and they let the day pass over them. An animal of such size carries its own steady warmth, and the noon heat troubles it less than it troubles the small, quick creatures. But even the giants slow in the still hours. Even they give themselves over to the deep drowse of the valley's noon. The queen stands among them, in the deepest of the shade, and she has entered that strange half-sleep that the giants keep, the dozing on the feet that asks no lowering of the great body to the ground. Her eyes are half-closed. Her neck is folded gently back. Her breathing has slowed to a long, deep, even rhythm, in and out, each breath a slow tide through the cathedral of her chest. She is not fully asleep. Some part of her remains aware, some old watchfulness keeps its low post even now, but the rest of her has let go, has surrendered to the heat and the shade and the deep safety of the drowsing company, and stands at ease in the still green hour. Watch the young ones in the still hours, for even they, who cannot keep still for long in the cool of the morning, have surrendered to the noon. They have folded their legs beneath them at last and settled into the soft ferns at the centre of the company, in the deep shade beneath their elders, and there they sleep, truly sleep, the small bodies rising and falling with their quick breaths, utterly at ease in the safest place in all the valley. The great legs of the cows stand around them like the columns of a quiet hall, and the heavy heat lies over them like a blanket, and nothing in the world could be safer than a sleeping young giant in the heart of its drowsing herd. The river runs on, but even it seems quieter in the still hours, its voice softened by the heavy air, a low continuous murmur beneath the drone of the insects. A single great dragonfly hangs in the air above the water, motionless on its glassy wings, and then drifts a little way and hangs again. A leaf detaches itself from somewhere high in the conifers and falls, slow, turning, taking a long time to reach the ground. Far off, one of the giants shifts its weight from one great foot to the other, and the soft pulse of it travels out through the warm earth and fades, and the stillness closes over it again. There is nothing to do in the still hours, and nothing that needs doing, and the whole valley knows it. This is the hour when the work of the day is set aside, when feeding and watching and wandering all give way to simple waiting, to the patient drowsing through of the heaviest heat. It is an hour without purpose and without urgency, an hour that asks only to be passed, and the creatures of the valley pass it the wisest way there is, which is by resting, by slowing, by letting the body grow heavy and the mind grow dim, and the day move on by itself. There is a deep permission in the still hours. They give every creature leave to do nothing at all. Take that permission for yourself. There is nowhere you need to be in the still hours, nothing you need to watch, nothing you need to hold. The giants drowse in the shade, the young sleep at their feet, the low herds rest at the prairie's edge. The hunter is far away in the deep forest, drowsing out the heat like everything else. The whole valley has slowed to a single warm, sustained note, the drone of the insects, the murmur of the river, the slow, deep breathing of the giants, and there is nothing in any of it that asks anything of you, but that you rest along with it. The light shifts so slowly that you cannot watch it move, but it moves, and the small dark pools of shadow beneath the trees begin, by imperceptible degrees, to lengthen and lean toward the east as the sun at last begins its long, slow fall toward the western hills. The worst of the heat is past, though the valley does not know it yet, still sunk in its deep noon drowse. The still hours are loosening their hold, so gradually that nothing stirs, and the long golden afternoon is beginning, far off, to lean toward evening. But there is no need to rouse for that, not yet. The still hours hold a while longer, warm and heavy and deep, and you may rest in them as fully as the sleeping young giants rest in the heart of the herd. Let the warm, sustained note of the valley's noon fill you. Let your own breathing slow toward the slow, deep rhythm of the queen's. Let the heat lie over you like the heavy blanket it is, and let yourself sink, the way the whole green world has sunk, into the deep and dreamless drowse of the valley's longest, stillest, most peaceful hour. There is nothing to do, There is only rest. Rest now, as the worst of the noon heat begins, very slowly, to loosen. The empty sky of the valley fills, for a while, with wings. They are not the wings of birds, for there are no birds yet in this old world, no feathers in the air, no song. These are the wings of the flying reptiles, the leathery aviators of the Jurassic sky, and they ride the warm rising air above the prairie in slow wide circles, and to watch them turn against the pale afternoon is one more of the valley's quiet wonders. The most common of them are small, no larger than a gull, with long narrow wings of skin stretched between an immensely elongated finger and the side of the body, and long thin tails ending in a small diamond-shaped vein that they use to steer. They have narrow jaws set with fine sharp teeth, good for snatching insects from the air or small fish from the surface of the river, and they fly with a light flickering grace, beating their wings in quick bursts, and then gliding, beating and gliding, working the warm air with an easy economy of effort. They have spent the heaviest heat roosting in the high conifers, and now, as the air begins to stir, they take to the sky to feed. Watch how they use the valley's warmth. As the sun heats the open prairie, the warmed air rises off it in great, slow, invisible columns, and the flying reptiles find these columns and circle within them, spiraling slowly upward on motionless wings, lifted by the rising air without a single wing beat. Round and round they go, climbing until they are high specks against the pale sky, and then they peel off from the top of one warm column and glide away across the valley, losing height slowly until they find another column and begin to climb again. They read the warmth of the air the way the queen reads the firmness of the ground, by long instinct, and they ride it for free across the whole wide sky. Down lower, just above the river, the flying reptiles hunt the insects of the evening air, which are rising now in clouds from the warm water and the warm ferns. There are dragonflies in the air over the river, large ones, their long bodies bright and their wings catching the light, and the flying reptiles pursue them in quick darting chases, twisting and turning on their narrow wings, snatching them from the air with their fine-toothed jaws. It is a small, swift hunt, played out high in the warm air above the water, and it troubles nothing on the ground, and it is over almost as soon as it begins, a brief flicker of motion against the sky, and then the slow, gliding circle resumed. Now and then a larger flyer crosses the valley, broader of wing and slower of beat, and the smaller ones give it room. But mostly the afternoon sky belongs to the small ones, dozens of them turning and circling and gliding over the prairie and the river, a slow living mobile hung beneath the pale dome of the sky, and the watching of them is endlessly gentle, for there is no urgency in their flight, no labour, only the easy riding of the warm air, the slow spiralling climb and the long gliding fall, repeated and repeated across the whole wide afternoon. The giants pay the flyers no attention, and the flyers pay the giants none, except that now and then one of the small flying reptiles will alight on the broad warm back of a drowsing giant, folding its wings and settling there as on a convenient grey hill, riding the great slow animal as it stands or shifts in the shade. The giant does not mind, it barely notices, and the flyer rests there a while, high and safe above the prairie, on the warm living back of the largest creature in the valley, and the two of them keep a strange, brief, peaceable company, the enormous and the small, until the flyer opens its wings again and lifts away into the warm air. There is something in the flight of these creatures that speaks directly to the resting mind, the slow circling, the effortless lift, the long gliding fall. To watch a thing ride the warm air in great patient circles, climbing without labour, falling without alarm, is to feel the mind itself begin to circle slow and let go, to feel its own restless beating settle into a long, easy glide. The flyers ask nothing of the air but that it lift them, and the air lifts them, and they turn upon it, slow and content, high in the gold of the waning afternoon. Let your mind turn slow with them. Let it ride the warm air and let go its beating and simply glide. As the afternoon draws on, the warm columns of rising air will weaken, and the flyers will descend, gliding lower and lower across the valley, until at last, as the cool of evening begins to gather, they return to their roosts in the high conifers, folding their long wings and settling among the branches for the night. But that is hours off yet. For now they ride the warm sky in their slow patient circles, dozens of them turning against the pale gold of the afternoon, and the prairie drowses beneath them, and the giants stand quiet in the shade, and the whole valley leans, by imperceptible degrees, toward its evening. The light has begun, almost without your noticing, to change. The hard white glare of the noon has softened toward gold, and the shadows have begun to lengthen and lean toward the east, and the air, while still warm, no longer presses with the full weight of the still hours. The flyers ride the last of the day's warm air. The river runs gold now, where the lowering sun strikes it. The long afternoon is turning, slowly, slowly, toward the gentle gold of evening, and toward the deeper rest that evening brings. So watch the wings a while longer, turning slow and patient against the softening sky, and let their slow circling carry your mind the way the warm air carries them, up in long easy spirals and down in long easy glides, round and round, higher and lower, until even the watching grows dim and the wings blur into the gold, and your own slow circling mind begins, at last, to glide down toward the deep warm rest that waits below. There is no hurry. The flyers are in no hurry. Let yourself glide, slow and content, down through the gold of the long afternoon towards sleep. For all its giants, the valley is mostly small. Beneath the great slow drama of the long necks and the plated wanderers and the patient hunters, in the low green world of the prairie floor and the shaded forest edge, there lives a whole quiet multitude of small creatures, hidden and busy and seldom seen, and they are as much the valley as the giants are, and there is a particular gentleness in turning, now, from the enormous to the very small. At the edge of the forest, where the conifers crowd close and the underbrush of tree ferns and cycads grows dense and cool and shaded, move the small hunters, quick lithe creatures the size of a large bird, running on two slender legs, their long tails streaming behind them for balance. They are built for speed and for the catching of smaller things still, with grasping hands and narrow snouts and sharp small teeth, and they dart through the underbrush after lizards and insects and the small scuttling life of the forest floor, swift and intent and almost invisible among the shadows. They keep to the forest edge, away from the open prairie, and they trouble nothing larger than themselves, and most of the valley never sees them at all. Lower still, in the leaf litter and the damp earth beneath the ferns, live the lizards, the small reptiles, the things that scuttle and bask and hide. They warm themselves in the patches of sun that fall through the canopy, flattening their small bodies against the warm bark or the warm stone, soaking up the heat, and at the first hint of a shadow they vanish, quick as thought, into the cracks and the litter and the dark. They live their whole lives in a world the giants never notice, a world of inches, of fallen needles, and damp hollows and small warm sunlit stones, and it is as full and as complete to them as the wide prairie is to the great ones above. And there are smaller things yet, the things that almost no one sees, the small warm-blooded creatures that keep to the shadows and the night. They are little, no larger than the small mammals of your own world, furred and quick and secret, and they hide through the long day in burrows and hollows and the dense roots of the ferns, sleeping out the bright hours when the hunters are abroad. By day you would scarcely know they exist, but they exist, in their countless quiet numbers, waiting in the dark earth for the coming of the night, when the great hunters drowse and the small warm hidden things creep out at last into a world made briefly safe by darkness. You will meet them properly when the night comes, for now they sleep, hidden in the warm dark earth beneath the drowsing valley. The insects are everywhere, the one part of the small world that does not hide. The warm air hums with them, the drone of beetles and the whine of small flies and the dry rasp of things you cannot name. And over the river the dragonflies hunt on glassy wings, the largest of them as long as your hand, patrolling their stretches of warm water with the fierce, patient economy of small predators. In the ferns, the smaller insects creep and crawl and feed, and on the conifers the resin traps the careless, and in the still pools the larvae of 100 kinds wait their slow turn to rise into the air. The insects are the deep hum beneath everything, the warm sustained drone that fills the valley from dawn to dusk and beyond. And once you hear it, you can never quite unhear it, this constant, gentle, living buzz that is the valley simply being alive. There is something steadying in remembering the small world, in knowing that beneath the great slow giants the whole green country is threaded through and through with small, busy, quiet lives, each one complete, each one entirely occupied with its own small business of feeding and hiding and warming and waiting. The valley is not just the few enormous things that catch the eye. It is the countless small things that do not, the lizards in the litter and the hidden furred creatures in the dark earth, and the numberless insects in the warm hum of the air, and all of them together make the valley what it is, a place so full of life that no single watcher could ever see the half of it. The small creatures keep their own slow drowsing hours through the heat, much as the great ones do. The small hunters of the forest edge rest in the cool shade. The lizards have retreated from the worst of the sun into their cracks and hollows. The hidden furred things sleep deep in their burrows, waiting for night. Even the insects, in the heaviest heat, slow their droning to that single sustained warm note. The whole small world drowses through the noon along with the whole large world, the tiny and the enormous sunk together in the same deep heavy rest, the same slow waning of the long bright day. And as the light begins to gold and the heat begins to loosen, the small world, like the large, begins very slowly to stir. A lizard creeps out onto a warm stone to catch the last good heat of the day. A small hunter slips through the underbrush after a late insect. The drone of the insects deepens and warms as the evening feeders rise from the river and the ferns. The whole small, hidden multitude, sensing the turning of the day, begins its slow, gentle shift from the drowse of the afternoon toward the different business of the evening. The way the whole valley shifts, by imperceptible degrees, from the bright, heavy noon toward the cool gold of the coming dusk. Hold the small world in your mind a moment, all of it at once. The lizards and the small hunters and the hidden furred things and the numberless insects. The whole quiet, busy multitude beneath the giants, and feel how it softens the valley, how it fills in all the spaces between the great slow shapes with small warm life. The valley is not empty between its giants. It is full, full to the brim, full in every crack and hollow and shadow, and the fullness of it is a comfort, the comfort of a world so richly and quietly alive that you could rest in it forever, and never come to the end of its small hidden wonders. Let the small world drowse and stir around you, the lizards on their warm stones, the hunters in their shaded underbrush, the hidden things waiting in the dark earth for the night, the insects humming their warm sustained note through the gold of the waning afternoon. There is nothing here you need to follow, nothing you need to hold. Let it all simply be, the small and the large together, the whole full breathing valley turning slow toward evening, and let yourself be small within it, one quiet drowsing thing among the countless others, resting in the warm green fullness of the world. Rest now, among the small and the hidden, in the gold of the turning day. If you have drifted this far down with me, there is no need to surface now. Let the valley keep you. If some quiet part of you is still listening, you might let the channel know you are here, so the next slow story finds its way back to you when you want it, and then let even that small thought go, and sink back into the green, and rest. The afternoon does not end so much as ripen. There is no single moment when the day turns toward evening, only a long, slow deepening of the light from the hard white of the noon toward a warm and honeyed gold, a gold that gathers in the air and pools along the western edge of everything, and lengthens the shadows out across the prairie until they lie in long, soft bars upon the green. The valley has turned its slow face toward the west, toward the lowering sun, toward the gentle gold of the evening, and the turning has loosened something in the whole green world, a softening, a settling, a deep, slow letting go. The heat has broken at last. The heavy weight of the still hours has lifted, and a faint cool has begun to creep into the air, rising off the river, drifting down from the lengthening shadows, and with the breaking of the heat, the valley has begun to wake from its noon drowse and move again, but gently, softly, with none of the bright energy of the morning. This is a different waking, a slow evening stir, the rousing of creatures that have rested deep and now ease themselves back into motion in the kindly cooling light. The giants stir first, as they always do, their great bodies easing out of the deep shade and back toward the feeding. The queen lifts her small head from where it has rested low against her shoulders through the long still hours, and slowly, slowly, the great neck begins to rise again, unfolding upward toward the high branches, and she resumes the feeding she set aside at noon. The others rouse around her, the great cows lifting their heads, the half-grown ones shaking off their drowse, and one by one the long necks rise into the gold-lit canopy, and the soft tearing of needles begins again across the company. The young ones wake last and wake reluctantly, the way young things always do, struggling up out of their deep noon sleep among the ferns, blinking, unsteady, pressing close against the great legs of their mothers. But the cool of the evening soon finds its way into them, and the old morning energy stirs again, and within a little while they are darting once more among the great slow bodies, cropping the low ferns, testing their legs, bright and quick in the gold light as though they had never slept at all. The waking of the young into the cool gold evening is one of the day's small joys, the return of their quick light motion to the slow company of the giants. The low herds come back out onto the open prairie now, drifting from the shade at the margins where they have drowsed out the heat, spreading once more across the green to feed in the kindly cooling light. They are calmer in the evening than in the morning, less skittish, their watchfulness softened by the falling of the day, and they graze in loose contentment across the gold-lit prairie, the young among them beginning, here and there, their evening play. The whole valley is feeding again, gently, in the long gold light, the giants high and the herds low and the lone wanderers between, all of them easing back into the slow business of living after the deep rest of the noon. The light is the great gift of this hour. It falls long and low across the valley from the west, and it turns everything it touches to warm gold, the grey hides of the giants, the green of the ferns, the pale sand of the river bars, the dark tears of the conifers, all of them washed and gilded in the honeyed evening light. The river runs gold between its banks. Kai branches where the queen feeds are lit gold from beneath, so that she seems to feed in a country of light. Even the air itself seems gold, thick and warm and luminous, full of slow drifting motes and the slanting beams of the lowering sun. It is the most beautiful light of the whole day, this long gold evening light, and it lies over the valley like a blessing. There is a particular peace in the gold hours, different from the deep drowse of the noon. The noon was a heavy peace, a peace of stillness and surrender, the peace of waiting out the worst of the heat. But the gold hours are a gentle, active peace, a peace of easy motion in kindly light, the peace of a day's hard heat past, and a cool, quiet evening come, the peace of creatures feeding in contentment as the world cools and softens around them. It is the peace of the long exhale after the held breath of the noon, the slow letting down of the whole green world toward the rest of the coming night. The queen feeds slow in the gold-lit canopy, her neck swinging gentle through the luminous branches, and there is a deep contentment in her, the contentment of an old animal at the close of a good day. She has fed and drunk and crossed the river and rested through the heat, and now she feeds again in the kindly evening light, with her company gathered safe around her and the young darting bright among the great legs, and there is nothing more the day asks of her, and nothing more she wants. She has spent 10,000 such evenings, and she knows the deep good of them, the gold light and the cool air and the safe company and the slow contentment of the feeding, and she gives herself over to it entirely. The shadows lengthen further, reaching out across the whole width of the prairie now, and the gold of the light deepens toward a richer amber, and the first faint coolness of the true evening begins to gather in earnest. The sun is sinking toward the western hills, slow and red and enormous, and as it sinks the whole quality of the light shifts and deepens, from gold toward amber, from amber toward rose, the long, slow, chromatic descent of the Jurassic evening. The day is ending, gently, beautifully, the way every day ends in the valley, in a long, slow wash of warm and deepening light. So rest in the gold hours, in the kindly cooling light, in the gentle, active peace of the evening feeding. The heat is past. The company is safe. The young are bright again among the great legs, and the herds graze content across the gilded prairie, and the queen feeds slow in her country of light. There is a whole long evening ahead, and a whole soft night beyond it, and all of it gentle, all of it safe, all of it leaning slow and sure toward rest. Let the gold light hold you. Let the cool of the evening settle into you. Let yourself drift, slow and content, down through the deepening amber toward the soft rest of the coming night. As the sun sinks toward the western hills and the gold deepens toward amber, a coolness rises through the valley, gentle and welcome, drawing the heat up out of the warm ground and softening the whole green world. The giants feel it, and it draws them once more toward the water, for the long hot day has dried them, and the cool of evening is the kindest time to drink. The queen turns from her feeding, and the great neck comes down out of the amber-lit branches, and slowly she begins to move toward the river through the lengthening shadows. The company gathers behind her as it gathered in the morning, the great bodies reading her movement through the cooling earth and falling into the same slow drift toward the water. But the evening drift is gentler than the morning's, slower, more contented, the movement of animals easing toward the close of a good day, rather than rousing toward the start of a new one. The young come along in the middle, less darting now, beginning to tire as the light fails, and the great cows move slow and easy around them, and the whole loose constellation flows down through the amber toward the river's edge. The water is cool now, cooler than it was in the heat of the morning, and the giants wade into the depth of their broad feet and lower their long necks to drink, and the cool of the water rises into them and eases the last of the day's heat from their great bodies. The drinking is the same slow, enormous music as before, the long pulling draughts, the swallows travelling down the necks in visible waves, the soft lap of disturbed water against the sand, but in the evening it is gentler, quieter, wound down toward the coming rest. The queen drinks deep, and stands a while in the cool shallows, and the amber light lies long across the water around her feet. The low herds come down to drink as well, in the safe stretches, keeping their evening distance from the deep dark pools, and for a while the whole margin of the river is alive with drinking animals, the giants high and the herds low, all of them easing the day's heat in the cool of the falling light. The flying reptiles, descending now from their warm air circles as the day's heat fades, skim low over the water to drink on the wing, dipping their narrow jaws to the surface as they pass, leaving small spreading rings behind them. The whole valley is at the water in the cool of the evening, drinking deep, settling toward the night. The light deepens further as they drink, from amber toward rose, and then from rose toward a soft and dusky violet, the long, slow, chromatic descent of the Jurassic evening drawing on toward its close. The sun touches the western hills, enormous and red, and seems to rest there a moment, and then begins to sink behind them, and as it sinks the whole valley fills with the soft, shadowless light of the dusk. The gentle blue-grey light that comes after the sun is gone, and before the dark has fully come. It is a quiet light, a between light, and the valley grows still and hushed within it. The queen lifts her head from the cooling water at last, the long neck rising in its slow, smooth arc against the dusky sky, and water runs from her muzzle in dim, bright threads. She has drunk her fill. She stands a while in the shallows in the gathering dusk, her great body dark against the pale water, and there is a deep evening stillness in her, the stillness of an old animal at the close of a long day, content, unhurried, ready for the rest of the night. Around her the company drinks and stills and settles, the great bodies growing dim in the failing light, the young drawing close, the whole loose constellation beginning to gather inward toward the night. For the night changes the shape of the company. By day the giants spread wide across the floodplain, each its own warm landmark, the better to feed without crowding. But by night they draw together, closer than by day, gathering inward toward a single loose company on safe open ground, the young at the centre and the great bodies around them, the better to keep the night's watch and to share the night's warmth and to face the dark as one. The drawing in begins now, in the dusk, as they leave the water, the great bodies flowing together toward the open ground where they will pass the night. There is a deep peace in the gathering dusk, in the cool, soft light, in the drawing in of the company toward the rest of the night. The day is nearly done. The heat is gone. The feeding and the drinking and the crossing are all behind, and there is nothing left now but the long, soft night, and the company knows it and gives itself over to it, settling toward the dark with the deep contentment of creatures whose day has gone well and whose night will be safe. The dusk light fades toward the dark, gentle and slow, and the valley hushes, and the great bodies gather, and the rest of the night draws near. The first faint stars are beginning to show in the deepening violet of the sky above the eastern hills, dim points of light pricking through the dusk one by one, and the river's voice seems to grow a little louder as the other sounds of the day fade, its low patient murmur rising to fill the gathering quiet. The flying reptiles have returned to their roosts in the high conifers. The low herds are settling into loose, drowsing clusters across the dim prairie. The whole valley is going still, going dark, going down toward the rest of the long, soft night. So let the dusk gather you in along with the company. Let the cool, soft light hold you. The day is done, and it was a good day. and there is nothing left now but the rest of the night. The giants gather close on the safe open ground. The first stars prick through the violet sky. The river murmurs low through the deepening dark. Let your own day end here, in the cool gathering dusk, among the settling giants, and let yourself drift, slow and content, down toward the deep soft rest of the Jurassic night. There is nothing left to do. There is only the dusk, and the gathering, and the coming of the gentle dark. Rest now. In the last of the dusk, the company chooses its ground. It is not a choice made all at once, nor by any one of them, but a slow, collective settling, a drifting together of the great bodies toward a particular stretch of open floodplain, level and dry, and clear of close-growing trees, where the night can be watched in every direction, and nothing can come near unseen. The queen drifts toward it first, as she drifts toward most things, by old knowing, and the others gather after her, and slowly the loose wide constellation of the day draws in toward the tight, safe company of the night. The open ground is chosen for its sightlines. Here on the level floodplain, well back from the forest edge and well clear of the river's deeper pools, the company can stand through the night with open space around it on every side, and any creature that might approach must cross that open space, and crossing it must be felt through the ground and seen against the stars. The giants do not fear the night, but they are not careless of it either, and the choosing of safe open ground is one more of the slow, wise habits that have carried the queen through 10,000 nights, and will carry her through 10,000 more. The young are settled at the centre. As the company gathers, the great cows ease their young inward toward the heart of the drawing in, until the small ones are gathered in a loose cluster at the very centre of the company, surrounded on every side by the great dark bodies of their elders. There they will pass the night, in the safest place in all the valley, walled around by the largest creatures in the world, and nothing could be safer than a sleeping young giant in the heart of the gathered herd beneath the stars. The cows arrange themselves around them without seeming to decide it, the long habit of the herd settling each great body into its place in the protective ring. And then, one by one, the great animals settle into their night rest. They do not lie down, most of them. To lower so great a body to the ground is slow and effortful, and to raise it again slower still, and an animal that may need to move quickly in the night prefers to keep its feet. So they doze standing, as the queen dozes, their great bodies still, their long necks folded gently back, their small heads lowered to rest against their shoulders, their eyes half closing in the dim starlight. The whole company settles into this standing half-sleep together, the great dark shapes growing still across the open ground, the long necks curving down, the breathing slowing and deepening into the long, even rhythm of the night. A few of the oldest and largest do lower themselves, carefully, slowly, folding their great legs beneath them and easing their enormous bodies down onto the warm, dry ground. And there they rest more deeply, their bodies dark hills against the dim prairie, their necks stretched out along the ground before them. It is a thing only the surest of them do, only the ones least likely to need to rise in a hurry, and the queen is among them, for she has earned, through her long years and her great size, the right to the deepest rest. She lowers herself now, slow and deliberate, onto the warm ground at the heart of the company, and stretches her great neck out before her, and settles into the night. The settling of the company is one of the gentlest things in all the valley's long day, this slow collective drawing in toward rest, this arranging of the great bodies into their protective ring, this easing of the young toward the safe centre, and the great cows into their watchful places, and the deepest of the old ones down onto the warm ground. There is no haste in it, and no anxiety. It is the calm and practiced settling of a company that has done this 10,000 times, that knows the night and trusts the ground and fears nothing the dark can bring, and the watching of it is like watching a household settle for the night, each thing finding its place, each creature easing toward its rest. The dusk fades entirely now, and the dark comes on, and the stars thicken in the sky above the settling company. The last of the light drains from the western hills. The river runs loud and patient through the deepening dark. The insects of the night take up their droning where the insects of the day left off, a soft, sustained hum rising from the warm ferns. And the company stands and lies still and dark across the open ground, the great shapes settled, the young safe at the centre, the queen at rest upon the warm earth, The whole gathered herd given over now to the long soft rest of the Jurassic night. But not all of them sleep at once. Even now, in the settled company, a few of the great cows remain on their feet, heads a little higher than the rest, eyes a little more open, keeping a loose and easy watch over the gathered herd. It is not a strict watch, not a posted guard, but a natural staggering of the company's rest, some settling deep while others doze lighter, so that at any hour of the night some few of the great animals are always near to waking, always loosely aware of the dark around them. The watch is shared, and it shifts through the night, and it costs the company little, and it gives them all the deep assurance that the herd is never wholly asleep. The queen, settled deep upon the warm ground at the heart of the company, is not on watch tonight, and she gives herself over to the deepest rest. Her great body is still, her long neck is stretched out along the ground. Her breathing has slowed to the long, deep tide of true sleep, in and out, each breath a slow movement through the vast cathedral of her chest. She sleeps as only the surest and the safest sleep, walled around by her company, watched over by her wakeful cows, at rest in the heart of the herd beneath the thickening stars. And the watching of her sleep is itself a deep invitation to your own. So let the company settle, and let the dark come on, and let the stars thicken in the sky above the gathered herd. The young are safe at the centre. The cows keep their easy shifting watch. The queen sleeps deep upon the warm ground. There is nothing in the night to fear, and nothing left in the day to do, and the whole company has given itself over to rest, and you may give yourself over with them. Let the safe gathered company hold you the way it holds the young at its centre. Let the deep even breathing of the sleeping giants slow your own. Rest now, in the heart of the herd, beneath the thickening stars, in the deep safe rest of the Jurassic night. The sky of the Jurassic night is not the sky you know. The stars are the same stars mostly, the same great furnaces burning in the same deep dark, but they are arranged in patterns you would not recognize. Unquote. For the slow turning of the ages has not yet drifted them into the shapes your own far world will one day name. There are no familiar constellations overhead, no figures you could trace, only the old stars scattered in unfamiliar order across the deep black dome of the Jurassic sky, and there is a strange deep peace in their strangeness. Look up now, with the company settled dark and still around you, and watch the stars come out. They emerge slowly as the last light drains from the sky, the brightest first, single points of cold, clear light pricking through the deepening violet, and then more and more until the whole dome of the sky is sown thick with them, more stars than you have ever seen, for there is no other light in all the valley to dim them, no glow on any horizon, no haze in the clean old air. The Jurassic night is dark as few nights you have known are dark, and in that deep darkness the stars burn close and clear and countless. Across the centre of the sky runs the great pale river of the galaxy, the Milky Way, a broad soft band of light arching from one horizon to the other, made of the massed glow of more stars than could ever be counted, a vast, luminous cloud spilled across the dark. It is brighter here, in this old clean dark, than you have ever seen it. A true river of light overhead to mirror the true river of water below, and the two of them, the bright sky river and the dark earth river, run their long parallel courses through the night, the one above and the one below, both patient, both ancient, both flowing on through the dark toward morning. The stars do not twinkle much in the still warm air. They burn steady clear points of cold light hung in the deep black, and as the night deepens they wheel, slowly, all together, the whole sky turning about a single point as the world turns beneath it. You cannot watch them move, any more than you can watch the hour hand of a clock, but they move, and if you looked away and looked back a long while later, you would find them shifted. The whole great spangled dome rotated a little further on its slow nightly course. The stars keep the time of the night the way the river keeps the time of the year, slowly, patiently, without ever seeming to move at all. The giants do not look up at the stars. They have no use for them, no wonder of them, no names for them. They settle into their night rest with their small heads lowered and their eyes half closed, indifferent to the great wheeling spectacle overhead, and the stars burn down upon their dark still bodies without their ever knowing. But you may look up for them, may take in for the whole sleeping company the vast quiet glory of the Jurassic sky, the countless steady stars, the bright spilled river of the galaxy, the deep clean dark in which it all burns, Someone should witness it, this old and unrepeatable sky, and tonight that someone may as well be you. There is a particular peace in the stars, in their distance and their steadiness and their indifference. They are so far off that all the long ages of the world are nothing to them, that the rise and fall of the giants and the slow drift of the continents and the turning of 100 million years pass beneath them unmarked. They burned before the valley was, and they will burn after it is gone, and the small warm dramas of the creatures beneath them, the feeding and the fleeing and the sleeping, are less than nothing to their cold, clear distance. And yet there is no cruelty in their indifference, only peace, the deep peace of a thing so vast and so far that nothing can trouble it, nothing can reach it, nothing can ask anything of it at all. Let the stars hold your gaze a while, the countless steady points of light, the bright arch of the galaxy, the deep wheeling dark. There is nothing in them to fear, and nothing in them to want. They simply burn, far off and patient, while the valley sleeps beneath them, and to look up at them is to feel your own small troubles shrink toward nothing in the face of their vast, cold distance, to feel the day's small reachings and graspings let go their hold, to feel the mind itself grow quiet and clear and dark as the spaces between the stars. Look up, and let go, and grow quiet. The night deepens, and the stars wheel slow, and the river runs loud and patient through the dark, and the company sleeps still and safe beneath the spangled sky. The queen rests deep upon the warm ground, her great body dark against the dim prairie, the stars burning steady above her sleeping form. The young sleep safe at the centre of the herd, the cows keep their easy shifting watch, and the whole valley turns slow beneath the wheeling stars, carried on through the dark toward the morning that will surely come, as it has come 10,000 times before. There is so much night still ahead, so many slow, dark hours of rest before the first rose light returns to the eastern hills, and there is no need to keep watch through any of them. The cows keep the watch, the stars keep the time, the river keeps the night. All of it is held, all of it is safe, all of it turns slow and sure toward the morning without any help from you. You have only to rest, only to sink down into the deep, safe dark along with the sleeping company, only to let the wheeling stars and the patient river carry you on through the night toward the gentle dawn. So let the first stars, and the 1,000 that follow them, burn steady and far above your rest. Let the bright river of the galaxy arch over the sleeping valley. Let the deep, clean dark close around the gathered company, around the sleeping queen, around the safe young at the heart of the herd, around you. The night is long and dark and gentle, and it is held on every side, and it asks nothing of you but that you rest within it. Let the stars wheel slow above you. Let the river run loud below. Let the deep dark hold you. Rest now beneath the countless steady stars of the old Jurassic night. The night has its own sounds, different from the sounds of the day, and as the company settles into its deep dark rest, the valley fills, gently, with the soft voices of the dark. They are quiet voices, mostly low and patient and unalarming, and once the day's bright noise has faded, they rise into the stillness one by one, until the whole night hums and murmurs and whispers with them, a soft, dark music to rest beneath. Listen, and let them name themselves to you, these gentle voices of the Jurassic night. The loudest of them, now, is the river. By day, its voice is one among many, half lost beneath the droning of the insects and the calling of the giants and the rustle of the herds. But by night, with the day's noise faded, the river's low, patient murmur rises to fill the whole valley, a continuous soft rushing that comes from every direction at once, the sound of water moving over sand in 1,000 shallow channels, the oldest and steadiest sound in all the valley. It does not rise, and it does not fall. It simply continues, the same low murmur it has murmured every night for longer than there are words to measure, and there is no sound more restful in all the dark. Beneath the river runs the droning of the night insects, the soft sustained hum of the small things that sing in the dark, rising from the warm ferns and the still pools and the dim prairie. It is a different drone from the daytime hum, lower perhaps, steadier, a deep continuous note that fills in all the spaces beneath the river's murmur, so that the two of them together, the river above and the insects below, make a soft dark blanket of sound, stretched over the whole sleeping valley. The night insects do not pause, and do not quicken. They simply drone, on and on, through all the dark hours, a steady living murmur to rest within. Now and then, from far off across the dark prairie, comes one of the deep rolling calls of the giants. A great cow on watch, perhaps, announcing her presence to the company, or one of the sleeping animals calling out from some slow dream. The call rolls out across the dark, deep and soft and felt as much as heard, and fades, and somewhere another answers it, and then the silence settles again beneath the river and the insects. The deep calls of the giants in the night are among the most peaceful sounds in all the valley, low and far and unhurried, like the slow speech of very large and very gentle things, passing word to one another across the safe dark, that they are all still there, all still well, all still keeping the night together. There are smaller voices too, closer in, the soft sounds of the night's small life beginning to stir, a rustle in the ferns where some small creature creeps out into the dark, a faint scuttling in the leaf litter at the forest edge, the dry whisper of the breeze moving through the horsetails along the channels, a sound like distant soft rain, the small splash of something at the river's edge, a creature drinking, or a fish rising, or a leaf falling to the water. These are the close voices of the dark, small and soft and intimate, and they come and go beneath the steady murmur of the river and the insects, brief soft punctuations in the long dark music of the night. What you will not hear, in the Jurassic night, is birdsong, for there are no birds, and so there is none of the night singing you might know from your own far world. No owl, no nightingale, no chorus at the edge of dawn. The night sky holds no voices. The dark air over the prairie is silent of song, and there is a deep, strange peace in that silence. In the great, quiet spaces of the songless Jurassic night, where the only voices are the low ones, the river and the insects, and the far deep calls of the giants, and the high air holds nothing but the steady burning of the stars. The voices of the dark are not voices of alarm. There is nothing frightened in them, nothing urgent, nothing that speaks of danger. They are the calm and ordinary sounds of a valley at peace in the night, the patient river, the droning insects, the far deep calls, the small soft stirrings of the night's quiet life. To lie within them, as the company lies within them, is to be held in a soft dark music that says, over and over in its wordless way, that all is well, that the night is ordinary, that nothing is wrong, that there is nothing to do but rest. The dark is not silent, but its sounds are gentle, and they ask only that you rest beneath them. The queen sleeps deep within the voices of the dark, her great body still upon the warm ground, her breathing slow and even beneath the murmur of the river and the droning of the insects. She does not hear the night's small sounds, or hears them only dimly, through the deep haze of her rest, and they do not trouble her, and she sleeps on. The young sleep safe at the centre of the company within the same soft, dark music. The cows keep their easy watch within it, and the whole valley rests beneath the gentle voices of the dark, held in their soft, continuous murmur, carried on through the long dark hours toward the morning. Let the voices of the dark gather around your own rest now, the way they gather around the sleeping company. Let the patient murmur of the river fill the spaces of your mind. Let the steady droning of the night insects lie over you, like a soft, dark blanket. Let the far, deep calls of the giants roll past now and then through the dark, low and gentle and unhurried, telling you in their wordless way that all is well. There is nothing in the dark to fear. There are only these gentle voices, the river and the insects and the far, slow calls, and they ask only that you rest beneath them. So rest now within the soft, dark music of the Jurassic night. The river murmurs low and patient through the dark. The insects drone their steady living note. The far, deep calls of the giants roll past now and then and fade. The small, soft stirrings of the night's quiet life come and go beneath it all, and over everything the silent stars burn steady, and the songless dark air holds its great peace, and the whole valley rests beneath the gentle voices, carried slow and safe through the long dark hours toward the dawn. Let the voices of the dark hold you. Let them carry you on. Rest now. When the dark has fully come, and the great hunters of the day have settled to their own rest, the night belongs, for a few safe hours, to the small, warm, hidden creatures that slept through all the bright day in their burrows and hollows. These are the night wanderers, the small, furred things, and they creep out now into the dark, into a world made briefly safe for them by the very darkness that hides them. and they go about their quiet business beneath the sleeping giants and the wheeling stars, and there is a deep gentleness in their small secret lives. They are little creatures, no larger than the small mammals of your own world, furred and quick and soft, with large dark eyes made for the night and small clever paws and twitching whiskered noses. By day they would be helpless, easy prey for the quick small hunters of the forest edge, and so by day they hide, deep in the warm dark earth, sleeping out the dangerous hours. But by night the small hunters mostly sleep, and the dark hides the small wanderers from what few eyes are still abroad, and so the night is their time, their one safe time, and they make the most of it, creeping out into the soft dark to feed. Watch one now, if your eyes can find it in the dark, a small soft shape slipping out from beneath the roots of a great fern at the forest edge, pausing, nose twitching, testing the night air, and then creeping on, low to the ground, into the dim prairie. It moves in quick soft starts, a few steps and a pause, a few steps and a pause, always alert, always ready to vanish back into the dark at the first hint of danger. It is hunting for the small things of the night, the insects and the seeds and the soft growing tips of the low ferns, the small quiet foods that a small quiet creature needs, and it gathers them in the dark with deft small paws and quick soft economy. There are many of them abroad in the dark, more than you would ever guess from the empty-seeming day, creeping out from 100 hidden burrows across the valley to forage in the safe dark hours. They keep to the shadows and the low ground, away from the open spaces, slipping through the dim prairie and the forest edge in their quick soft starts, gathering their small foods, and they trouble nothing and are troubled by nothing, for the night is theirs, and the dark protects them, and the great sleeping giants take no notice of such small things at all. The night wanderers have the valley nearly to themselves for these few safe hours, and they go about it gently, quietly, without fear. These small warm creatures are easy to overlook in a valley so full of giants. They are not splendid. They do not tower or thunder or sweep the prairie with their passing. They are small and soft and secret, and they keep to the dark, and most of the valley's long history will pass without anyone taking much notice of them at all. And yet there is something in them, in these small, warm, hidden things creeping through the dark beneath the sleeping giants, that is worth the noticing, for they are patient and persistent, and they endure, and the long, slow turning of the ages will be kinder to their kind than to the giants in the end. But that is far off, unimaginably far, and tonight they are simply small, soft creatures foraging in the safe dark, and that is enough. One of them creeps close to the sleeping company, drawn by the soft new growth of ferns trodden up around the great feet, and forages there a while almost beneath the shadow of a sleeping cow, fearless in the dark, gathering the tender shoots. The great cow sleeps on, her vast body still, utterly unaware of the small warm creature foraging at her feet, and there is a strange sweet peace in the picture of it, the enormous and the tiny sharing the same dark patch of ground, the one asleep and unknowing, the other awake and unafraid, the great and the small at rest together in the safe dark of the Jurassic night. The night wanderers warm themselves as they forage, for they carry their own warmth as the giants do, though in a smaller, quicker way, a warm, fast life burning bright in their small, soft bodies against the cool of the night. It is a different way of being warm from the giant's slow-stored heat, a quick and costly way that demands much feeding, and so the small wanderers must forage hard in their few safe hours, gathering enough to keep their warm, fast life burning through the cool dark and the dangerous day to come. But for now the foraging is good, and the night is safe, and they go about it with deft, quick contentment, small, warm lives moving soft through the cool dark. As the deepest part of the night comes on, and the cold creeps deeper into the air, the small wanderers will forage faster, and then begin, one by one, to slip back toward their burrows, back toward the warm dark earth where they will sleep out the cold hour and the dangerous day. But that is still some hours off. For now they are abroad in the safe dark, creeping soft through the dim prairie and the forest edge, gathering their small foods beneath the sleeping giants and the wheeling stars, and the valley holds them gently, as it holds all its creatures, the great and the small, the sleeping and the waking, all of them safe in the soft dark of the night. There is a deep, quiet comfort in the night wanderers, in knowing that even in the darkest hours the valley is not empty, not dead, not still, but threaded through with small, warm, secret life, with little soft creatures creeping content through the safe dark, foraging and warming and enduring beneath the sleeping giants. The night is not a void. It is full of the river's murmur and the insect's drone, and the far deep calls of the giants and the small soft stirrings of the night wanderers, full of warm life going quietly on through the dark, and the fullness of it is a comfort to rest within. So let the night wanderers creep soft through your rest, the small warm hidden things foraging content in the safe dark, and let their small quiet lives be one more gentle thing to hold the mind as it sinks towards sleep. The giants sleep deep upon the warm ground, the small wanderers forage soft among them. The river murmurs, the insects drone, the stars wheel slow above, and the whole valley rests, the great and the small together, in the soft, full dark of the Jurassic night, and you may rest among them, small and warm and safe, one more quiet life held gently in the dark. Rest now, among the night wanderers beneath the sleeping giants and the wheeling stars. Deep in the night, while the herd sleeps around her on the warm ground, the queen does not sleep as deeply as the others. She is old, and the old sleep lightly, and there is something in the matriarch's long life that keeps a part of her wakeful even in the deepest dark. She rests with her great body settled and her legs folded beneath her, and her breathing is slow and even, but now and then the heavy lids lift, and the old eyes open to the dark, and she looks out across the sleeping valley with the patience of a creature who has watched 1,000 such nights pass. There is no fear in this watching. It is not the nervous waking of a small animal that startles at every sound. It is something calmer and deeper, the quiet attentiveness of a long life, the habit of a creature who has learned across many decades that the night holds nothing she cannot meet by simply being large and being still. She lifts her head a little, and she listens to the valley, and she finds it as it should be, and she lets her head settle again toward the cool grass. Around her the others sleep in their loose ring, the great cows and the half-grown young and the smaller members of the company, all of them settled close, all of them breathing slow. She can feel them in the ground more than she can see them in the dark, the faint warmth of their bodies, the soft rhythm of their breath, passing through the earth as a kind of company. They are her herd. She has led them through the green country season upon season, and in the dark she keeps a part of her old attention turned toward them, the way she has always done. The night sounds come to her, and she reads them without alarm. The drone of the insects, steady and unbroken, the murmur of the river over its stones, the far small rustlings of the night wanderers moving through the ferns. And once, very far off and very faint, a low call from somewhere down the valley, some other great creature speaking into the dark, and she lifts her head to it, and she waits, and the call does not come again, and she lets the matter rest. The night is wide, and there is room in it for many voices, she thinks, if a creature so old and so slow can be said to think in the long, unhurried way of giants. Not in pictures or in words, but in something more like weather, slow fronts of feeling that move through her across the hours, a sense of the herd as safe, a sense of the valley as known, a sense, deep and wordless, of the long turning of the seasons that she has felt so many times that they have worn a kind of groove in her, so that she knows, without knowing how she knows, that change is coming to the green country, that the year is turning toward its drier time. Above her the stars wheel slow, the great river of them spilled across the black, the patterns unfamiliar and bright. She does not look at them with wonder, the way you might. They are simply the roof of her nights, the same wheeling lights she has watched lift and turn and set across all her long years, and they are part of the deep familiarity that lets her rest. The dark moves, the lights turn, the herd breathes, and the old queen keeps her long soft watch over all of it, asking nothing, guarding nothing, simply present in the dark as she has always been. There is a great tenderness in this, though she would not name it so. The oldest and largest of them all, the one who has survived the most and lost the most and walked the farthest, spending the deep hours of the night not in fear and not in restlessness, but in a quiet, wakeful keeping, as though her long life had earned her this, the right to lie among her sleeping kin and simply watch over them, and to find in that watching a peace deeper than sleep. Sometimes she shifts her great weight a little, easing the press of the ground on one side, and the small movement sends a faint tremor out through the earth, and one of the young stirs in its sleep and settles again, drawn back down into rest by the nearness of the great body. They sleep more deeply for her watching, though they do not know it. They sleep the way the very young sleep when some larger love is awake nearby, the deep, untroubled sleep of the utterly safe. And slowly, as the deepest part of the night wears on, even the old queen's long watch softens. Her listening grows looser, her waking thinner, the slow fronts of feeling fading toward the formless calm of true sleep. The valley has shown her nothing to fear. The herd is whole around her. The river runs and the stars turn and the insects drone their endless soft chord, and there is nothing left for her to do but let the dark take her too, down into the deep, slow sleep of giants. So let the queen's long watch settle over your own rest. Let there be, somewhere, in the warm dark, an old and patient presence keeping its soft attention turned toward you, asking nothing, guarding nothing, simply there. The herd sleeps in its loose ring. The queen lowers her great head to the cool grass. The watch grows soft and softer, and even the watcher sinks towards sleep, and the whole valley rests together under the wheeling stars. Rest now, watched over, in the deep safe dark. There is an hour in the deep of the night, far from both the warm evening and the coming dawn, when the valley reaches its coldest. The heat the ground stored through the long day has bled away into the dark sky, and a chill settles low over the ferns, and a thin mist rises off the river and drifts white through the sleeping world. It is the cold hour, the lowest point of the turning night, and in it all the small creatures of the valley draw tight and still, and wait for the warmth to return. But the giants do not feel the cold as the small things feel it. This is one of the deep gifts of their size, and it is worth resting your mind upon, for there is something profoundly comforting in it. A body as vast as the queen's holds its warmth the way a great stone holds the warmth of the sun long after the sun has gone. The heat made deep inside her by the slow work of her living spreads through all that enormous mass, and is lost only very, very slowly, so that even in the coldest hour her great body stays warm, a slow furnace banked against the chill of the night. She is, in a sense, her own warm weather. The small creatures must hide and huddle and shiver through the cold hour, but the queen carries her warmth within her, vast and steady, untroubled by the chill that settles over the rest of the world. The mist may rise around her, and the cold may sink down over the ferns, but deep in the great warm dark of her body the heat goes on, slow and constant, the quiet engine of her hugeness, keeping her safe from the cold as it keeps her safe from so much else. And the young, gathered close against the great bodies, share in that warmth. This is why they pressed in so close before sleep, why the loose ring drew tight around the smallest of them. The half-grown press their flanks to the warm sides of the great cows, and the warmth of the giants passes into them, and they sleep through the cold hour wrapped in a heat that is not their own, borrowed from the vast slow furnaces of their elders. The cold may come, but it does not reach them. They lie in the warmth of giants, and they do not stir. Across the valley the mist thickens and drifts, pale rivers of it moving low between the great sleeping shapes, softening every edge, hushing the already hushed world into something even quieter. The drone of the insects thins in the cold, slows, grows sparse, until only a few of the hardiest go on, their soft chord worn down to a single faint thread of sound stretched across the silence. The river runs on, patient as ever, its murmur the one voice that does not change, that carries through warm hours and cold alike, steady beneath everything. If you were there, small and warm among the great bodies, the cold hour would be the safest hour of all. You would feel the chill settle over the valley and know it could not reach you, wrapped as you would be in the borrowed heat of the giants, the great warm flanks rising and falling slow on every side, the deep warmth of them holding back the dark and the cold together. There is no safer place in all the prehistoric world than pressed warm against a sleeping giant in the coldest hour of the Jurassic night. The stars are at their brightest now, in the cold, clear air, the great spilled river of them blazing across the black with a sharpness the warmer hours never hold. The cold has scoured the sky clean, and the unfamiliar patterns burn above the misted valley, remote and beautiful and utterly indifferent. The same cold fire that has wheeled over every cold hour of the queen's long life. She does not wake to see them. She sleeps deep now, warm in her own great warmth, and the bright cold stars keep their watch in her stead. Slowly, so slowly that nothing living marks the moment, the cold hour passes its lowest point and begins, by the faintest degree, to turn back toward warmth. The deep dark holds yet, and the dawn is still long off, but the very bottom of the night is behind now, and the long slow climb toward morning has silently begun. Nothing changes that any waking eye could see, but the turn has come, the way it always comes, and the warmth of the world will gather again, and through it all the warmth of the giants goes on, untroubled, constant, the one heat in the valley that the cold hour cannot touch. The mist drifts and the stars burn and the river murmurs, and deep in the great slow bodies the warmth holds steady, banked and patient, waiting out the cold the way it has waited out 10,000 colds before, sure of itself, in no hurry, certain of the morning. So let the warmth of giants gather around your own rest now. In the cold hour, in the deep of the night, let the chill settle over the far ferns and know it cannot reach you. You are wrapped in a borrowed heat, vast and slow and steady, the warmth of great bodies banked against the dark. The mist drifts soft, the cold stars burn, and you rest warm at the very bottom of the night, held in the slow furnace warmth of the sleeping giants. Rest now, warm, in the cold quiet hour before the turning. After the cold hour passes its lowest point, the light begins its slow return to the valley, and there are few things gentler to rest the mind upon than the long, soft coming of the dawn. It does not arrive, it gathers. Long before any edge of sun shows over the eastern hills, the deep black of the night begins, by the faintest degree, to thin, the hard bright stars dimming one by one, the black softening toward the deepest of blues, a change so slow that no waking eye could catch the moment of it. The night is ending, as nights end, without any sharp edge, leaning soft toward the morning. The mist that rose in the cold hour lies low and pale over the valley still, drifting soft between the great sleeping shapes, and as the first greyness gathers in the sky, it takes on a faint pale glow, lit gently from within by the coming light. The river runs on beneath it, its patient murmur the same as it has been all the long night, the one voice that carried unbroken through the dark, and carries now into the slow gathering of the dawn. The world is still mostly dark, but the dark is softening, and the long night is nearly done. The queen feels the turn before any light is plain. In the deep, wordless way she feels all the great rhythms of her world. The long watch of her night softens further, her old sleep thinning toward waking, and as the first greyness seeps into the sky, she lifts her great head from the cool grass and looks out over the misted valley toward the paling east. She has watched 10,000 dawns gather over the green country, and the slow coming of this one stirs in her the same deep, quiet recognition, the comfortable knowing of a thing seen so many times it has worn its groove in her bones. Around her the herd sleeps on, deep in the last soft hour before the waking. The great bodies settled easy in the paling dark. They do not stir yet. The dawn comes slow, and there is no need to wake until it has fully gathered, and the giants take the last of the night's rest in the deep ease of creatures who have no reason to hurry. The queen keeps her old soft watch over them as the grey light grows, the great calm keeper of the herd's last quiet sleeping, content to let them rest until the morning is fully come. The grey deepens toward the first faint colours. Far in the east, above the dark line of the hills, the sky begins to warm, the grey flushing slowly toward the palest gold, the palest rose, the first soft hues of the coming sun bleeding gentle up into the paling blue. The colours come slow and soft, with none of the sharp brilliance of full day, the tender washed hues of the early dawn spreading gentle over the misted valley. The light is returning to the green country, slow and kind, the way it returns every morning, sure and unhurried and gentle. The small things of the valley stir first, the way the small things always do. Faint rustlings begin again in the ferns as the night wanderers finish their foraging and the day creatures wake. The thin, worn chord of the night insects shifts and changes as the dawn creatures take up their own soft droning. The valley begins, very gently, to wake. The slow, soft sounds of the morning gathering beneath the paling sky, the green country stirring toward the new day in its own unhurried time. Still the giants sleep, and still the queen keeps her watch, and the dawn gathers soft and full around them. There is a deep peace in this last slow hour. The night not quite ended and the day not quite begun, the whole valley poised in the gentle threshold of the dawn. The mist glows pale, the colours warm in the east. The river murmurs and the small things stir, and the great bodies rest on in the soft gathering light, easy and unhurried, taking the last of the night's deep rest in the kind grey hush of the coming morning. And then, at last, the first true light slips over the eastern hills, the soft gold edge of the returning sun, and the gathered dawn becomes the morning. The pale glow strengthens, the colours warm and spread. The long shadows of the early light reach soft and blue across the misted valley. The night is over. The morning has come, gentle as it always comes, slow and kind and sure. The light returned once more to the green country after the long soft passage of the dark. The queen lifts her great head fully to the morning light, and the long neck rises slow against the warming sky, and something deep and old in her eases toward the new day. She has brought her herd through another night, kept her long faithful watch through the dark and the cold hour, and now the morning comes to reward the keeping. The soft gold light spilling once more over the valley she has guarded through the night. She is content. The night is done, and the day is come, and the herd is whole, and the morning is gentle and good. So let the slow return of the light gather soft through your own rest now. The long night easing gentle toward the morning, the dark softening, the stars dimming, the first kind colours warming in the east. There is no sharp edge to it, no sudden waking, only the long, soft gathering of the dawn over the misted valley, slow and sure and gentle. The queen lifts her great head to the coming light, content, the night well kept, and you may rest in that same soft threshold, poised gentle between the dark and the day, easing slow and easy through the kind grey hush. Rest now, in the slow, soft gathering of the dawn. As the morning light strengthens and spreads gold over the green country, the great herd wakes, and the waking is as slow and gentle as everything else in the giants' unhurried lives. There is no sudden rousing, no startled rising. The great bodies stir by degrees in the warming light, the deep sleep thinning slowly toward waking, the giants surfacing gentle from the long night's rest, the way a deep pool stills after a stone has sunk through it, slow and smooth and easy. One by one, in their own unhurried time, the great shapes of the herd rouse to the new day. The first thing they do is breathe deep of the cool morning air, the great chests filling slow with the clean dawn coolness, the lundrickers lifting toward the strengthening light. Then, slowly, they begin to rise, the great bodies heaving up from the warm ground where they slept, the column legs straightening, the vast shapes lifting one by one to stand tall against the gold morning sky. It is a slow and mighty thing, the rising of the giants, the great masses lifting deliberate from the earth, and the ground trembles soft beneath them as they rise. The queen rises among them, slow and stately, the great old body lifting from the grass where she kept her long watch, the long neck rising last of all toward the morning light. She stands tall in the gold dawn, the greatest of them all, and she looks out over her waking herd with the deep old calm of the matriarch, taking the measure of the morning, reading the new day in the slow, sure way she has read 10,000 mornings before. All is as it should be. The herd is whole, the valley is green, the day is gentle and good. The young wake last and wake reluctant, the way the young always do, stirring slow and sleepy against the great warm bodies that sheltered them through the night. They blink in the strengthening light, uncertain for a moment, and then they find the great shapes of the herd rising around them, and they remember the safe, warm world they woke into, and they rouse themselves and rise on their small legs to join the waking herd. The night's deep sleep falls away from them in the gold morning light, and they wake eager to the new day, the way the very young wake when the world has been kind to them. The mist burns slowly off as the sun climbs, the pale drifts thinning and lifting and vanishing into the warming air, until the whole green valley lies clear and bright in the gold morning light. The river runs full and bright between its banks, catching the new sun, its patient murmur brightening toward the louder song of the day. The ferns of the low prairie lift and stir as the warmth reaches them. The high trees catch the gold light in their crowns. The whole green country wakes and brightens and warms, the new day spreading full and gentle over the valley. And the herd turns, as it turns every morning, toward the water. The long night has dried them, and the first need of the day is the same as the last need of the evening, the cool, sweet drink at the river's edge. The queen leads them toward it through the gold morning light, the great bodies falling in behind her in the old slow drift, the young gathered safe in the middle, the whole loose constellation of the herd flowing gentle down toward the bright water through the waking valley. The new day begins as every day begins, with the slow journey to the morning drink. There is a deep gladness in the morning waking, the simple animal gladness of creatures who have rested well and woken whole to a kind world. The giants move easy in the gold light, refreshed by the long night's sleep, ready for the slow, good work of the new day, the feeding and the watering and the unhurried wandering through the green country. The valley spreads generous around them, full of the morning's plenty, and the herd wakes to it glad and easy, the way they have woken to 10,000 mornings before, sure of the day's good gifts. The queen drinks first at the river's good place, the long neck dipping to the bright, cool water, and then she lifts her great head dripping to the morning light and lets the herd come down to drink in their turn. She has led them through another night and into another day, brought them whole from the warm dark to the gold morning, and now she stands easy at the water's edge in the new light, the great old keeper of the herd's unbroken days, content in the deep slow rhythm of the life she has led so long and so well. So the valley wakes, slow and gentle and glad, the great herd rising from the warm ground into the gold morning, the mist burning off, the river brightening, the whole green country warming to the new day. The queen leads her waking herd toward the morning drink through the kind gold light, and the slow good rhythm of the giant's life begins again, sure and unhurried and gentle, as it has begun every morning of all her long years. So let the valley wake soft and glad through your own rest now, the great herd rising slow from the warm ground, the mist lifting, the river brightening, the gold light spreading full over the green country. Let the giants breathe deep of the cool morning air and turn easy toward the water, the young waking eager, the queen leading them gentle into the new day. There is no haste in it and no fear, only the deep glad rhythm of a kind world waking to a gentle morning. And you may rest in that same soft waking, refreshed and whole and easy, held in the slow gold rhythm of the morning valley. Rest now, in the gentle gladness of the waking day. Seasons move slowly in the great valley, and they do not announce themselves. There is no sharp edge between one time of the year and the next, only a long, soft gradient, a gradual leaning of the whole green world from one mood toward another. And now, across many days that no single morning could mark as different from the last, the year has begun its long turn away from the wettest, greenest time and toward the drier season that always follows. The queen feels it before any change is plain to see. In the deep, wordless way she feels all the great slow rhythms of her life. The rains that fell so freely in the green time come less often now. The sky that hung so heavy and grey for so many days lifts and clears and stays clear longer, and the sun pours down through the high thin air with a steadier, brighter heat. The braided river that ran so full and wide begins, by the slowest degree, to draw back into its channels, the shallows narrowing, the gravel bars widening, the loud bright rush of the green time settling toward a quieter, slower flow. None of it happens in a day. All of it happens, surely, across the turning weeks. The ferns of the low prairie, that grew so lush and tender in the wet, begin to toughen and to slow their growing. The new green that pushed up so eagerly comes more slowly now, and the older fronds take on a deeper, dustier hue, and the whole low country shifts by imperceptible steps from the bright, wet green of the full season toward the deeper, drier green of the turning year. The food is still there, still ample, still good. It only changes its character, the way everything changes with the turning, slowly and without alarm. The queen has felt this turn so many times that it holds no fear for her, only a kind of deep recognition, the comfortable familiarity of a thing known to the bone. She knows the dry season is coming the way she knows the night follows the day, and she knows too that it will pass, that the rains will return as they have always returned, that the green will come back to the low country as it has come back every year of her long life. The turning is not loss, it is only the wheel of the year, coming round to a face she has seen 100 times before, and because she knows, she begins, without hurry, to prepare, not in any deliberate way, not as a planning creature plans, but in the slow drift of an old animal following grooves worn deep by a lifetime of turnings. She leads the herd a little more often toward the higher feeding grounds, where the moisture lingers longest. She lingers a little longer at the river's good places, drinking deep against the drier days. The herd follows her shifting habits without question, trusting, as they have always trusted, the deep knowledge held in the oldest and largest of them. There is a particular peace in watching a creature meet a hard season without fear, simply because she has met it so many times before. The dry time will bring its difficulties. The water will grow scarcer. The green will grow tougher. The easy abundance of the wet season will narrow toward something leaner. But the queen carries within her the whole long memory of her kind's endurance, and she leans into the turning with a calm that comes only from having survived, again and again, the very thing that is coming. The young do not understand the turning. They feel only that the rains have grown rare and the river has drawn back and the ferns have changed, and these things are strange to them, for some of them are too young to remember the last dry season. But they have the great calm of their elders to read, and the elders are not afraid, and so the young are not afraid either. They follow the shifting drift of the herd, and they trust the unhurried ease of the great bodies around them, and they learn, slowly, the deep lesson of the turning year, that the seasons change and the herd endures. Even the light is changing. The long gold evenings of the wet season, soft and damp and full, give way to a clearer, sharper gold. The light of drier air, more brilliant and more spare. The dust that the dry brings begins to hang faintly in the air toward evening, catching the low sun, turning the air to a hazy amber that softens every distance. The valley is becoming a drier country, a more golden country, beautiful in a different way than the green time was beautiful, and the queen leads her herd through the slow change with the calm of long acquaintance. So the year turns, as years turn, without alarm, without sharp edges, a long soft leaning of the whole world from one mood toward another. The rains grow rare, the river draws back, the green deepens and dries, and through it all the old queen leads her trusting herd with the deep calm of a creature who has felt this turning 100 times and knows, beyond any fear, that it will pass and the green will return. So let the turning of the year move slow and calm through your own rest now. Let the seasons lean from one mood to the next without any sharp edge, without any alarm, only the long, soft, gradual change of the whole wide world. The rains grow rare and the river draws back, and the old queen feels it all without fear, certain of the green's return. And you may rest in that certainty, held in the slow turning wheel of the year, sure as the queen is sure that all hard seasons pass. Rest now, in the calm of the turning, certain of the green to come. The dry season comes fully now to the great valley, and the green country becomes a golden one. The braided river has drawn far back into its deepest channels, leaving wide pale flats of sun-baked gravel where the shallows once ran, and the water that remains moves slow and quiet between its narrowed banks. The low prairie has gone from green to gold, the ferns dried to a dusty amber, the air hazed faintly with the fine pale dust that the dry season always brings. It is a harder time than the wet, but it is not a cruel time, and the queen leads her herd through it with the unhurried ease of long knowing. Water becomes the centre of everything now. In the wet season the river was everywhere, and the drinking was easy, a thing done in passing. But in the dry the water draws back to a few good places, the deep pools and the steady channels, and the daily journey to drink becomes the spine of the herd's days. The queen knows these good places, every one of them, knows them from seasons beyond counting, and she leads the herd to them along paths worn smooth by the passage of her kind, across uncounted dry years. The water is scarcer now, but the queen always knows where it waits. The feeding changes too. The tender green of the wet season is gone, and the herd must work a little harder for its food, reaching higher into the trees that hold their leaves longest, browsing the tougher growth that endures the dry. But the giants are built for endurance, and a body so vast holds so much that even leaner feeding sustains them, and the slow patient work of filling such enormous bodies goes on through the golden days, much as it went on through the green ones, only a little slower, a little more deliberate, a little more spread across the wide dry country. There is a stillness to the dry season that the wet never held. The loud, bright rush of the full river is gone, replaced by the quieter voice of the narrowed channels. The teeming life of the wet prairie has thinned, many of the smaller creatures having drawn back to the lingering water or sunk into the slow patient waiting that the dry calls forth. The whole valley moves more slowly now, conserving, enduring, leaning into the hard, bright season with the deep animal patience of things that have weathered many dry times and trust, in their wordless way, that the rains will come again. The queen carries the herd's endurance in her own great calm. She does not hurry, does not fret, does not waste the precious water of her body in needless effort. She leads them to the good places in the cool of the morning and the cool of the evening, and through the hard, bright middle of the day she rests them in what shade the valley holds, the great bodies settled in the dappled shadow of the trees that endure, waiting out the worst of the heat in the deep patience that is the giant's greatest strength. The dry season rewards patience, and patience is the thing the queen has most of all. Even the danger softens in the dry. The deep pool where the patient watcher waits, the long crocodile relative that lies so still in the dark water, is a smaller danger now, for the watcher too must endure the lean season, must spend its strength carefully, must wait longer between the rare meals the dry time allows. The herd still drinks with the old care, the young still kept back from the deep water, but the danger lies low and quiet in the dry, conserving itself, no more eager than the rest of the valley to spend its strength in the hard bright days, and the giants, too large to fear it ever, drink and move on. The young grow thinner in the dry, as all things grow a little thinner, but they do not suffer. They learn the dry season the way they learned the green, by following the great calm bodies of their elders, by trusting the queen's deep knowledge of where the water waits. They learn the long paths to the good pools. They learn the patience of the resting hours, the wisdom of the cool morning journey, the deep endurance of their kind. The dry season is their teacher, and the queen is its gentle voice, and they come through it leaner and stronger and wiser, made ready by the hard, bright days for all the dry seasons of their own long lives to come. And there is a strange beauty in the golden valley that the green one never held. The light pours down clearer and more brilliant through the dry air. The evenings burn a deeper, dustier gold, the sun sinking vast and red through the hanging haze. The stars at night blaze sharper in the clear, dry sky, the great spilled river of them brighter than ever above the parched and patient land. The dry season is hard, but it is not without its gifts, and the queen leads her herd through its golden days and its blazing nights with the deep contentment of a creature wholly at home in every season of her world. So the dry time wears on, golden and patient and slow, and the herd endures it as it has endured all things, by following the old queen to the good water, by resting through the bright, hard hours, by trusting in the deep, wordless certainty that the rains will come again. There is no panic in the dry, no desperation, only the long, calm endurance of giants who have weathered 100 dry seasons and know, past any fear, that this one too will pass. So let the dry season move slow and golden through your own rest now, hard but never cruel, lean but never desperate. Let the river draw back to its good deep pools, and the old queen lead the patient herd to the water she has always known. The light burns clear and gold, the evenings deepen to dusty red, and the herd endures in the deep calm of long knowing, certain of the rains to come. And you may rest in that same certainty, patient and enduring and unafraid, sure as the giants are sure that the green will return. Rest now, in the golden patience of the dry. After the long golden endurance of the dry season, the rains return to the great valley, and their coming is one of the gentlest mercies of the turning year. It does not happen all at once. First there is only a change in the air, a softening, a faint heaviness, a deepening of the haze towards something fuller. Then, far off over the hills, the clouds begin to build, great soft towers of them gathering in the high blue, where for so long there had been only the clear, hard brilliance of the dry. The queen feels the change and lifts her great head to it, and something old and deep in her eases toward the coming relief. The first rain is almost shy, a few drops, scattered and warm, darkening the pale dust, releasing from the parched ground that particular sweet smell that only comes when rain meets long dry earth, the deep green smell of the wet returning. The herd lifts their heads to it, the great bodies stirring with a slow pleasure, the young looking up in wonder at the soft cool drops. They are too young to remember. And then the scattered drops thicken and gather and become at last a true rain, soft and steady and warm, falling gentle over the whole golden valley. There is no violence in this rain. It is not the lashing storm of harsher places, but the soft soaking rain of the returning wet, falling slow and steady and kind, sinking into the parched ground, swelling the narrowed channels, washing the dust from the dry amber ferns and waking the deep green beneath. The herd stands easy in it, the great bodies darkening as they wet, and they do not seek shelter, for the rain is welcome. The rain is the end of the long dry. The rain is the promise that the green country is returning at last. Across the days that follow, the valley wakes. The braided river, drawn so far back through the dry, begins to fill again, the channels widening, the shallows spreading, the loud, bright rush of the green time returning to the water. The low prairie, gone gold and dusty through the dry, flushes green once more. The new fronds pushing up tender and bright through the old amber growth, the whole low country greening from dust toward lushness in the slow, soft work of the returning rains. The valley is becoming the green country again, and the queen leads her herd through the greening with the deep contentment of long mercy. The feeding grows easy again. The tender green the herd works so hard for in the dry returns in soft abundance, springing up everywhere, and the giants browse it with slow pleasure, filling their great bodies on the gentle new growth, putting back the leanness of the dry, growing once more sleek and full in the easy plenty of the wet. The young, thinned by the golden season, grow swiftly now on the rich new green, filling out, strengthening, the hard lessons of the dry behind them, and the soft mercy of the wet all around. The valley feeds them again with its old generous hand. Even the danger eases into a different shape. The deep pools fill and spread, and the patient watcher in the dark water finds its lean season ended, finds the prey returning to the widening shallows, and grows easier in its own way, no longer pressed by the hard scarcity of the dry. But the herd still drinks with the old care, and the giants still move untroubled past the deep water, too vast to fear the watcher in any season, and the slow balance of the valley settles back into its full and generous form. The wet has come, and everything that lives in the valley feels the long mercy of it. For the queen there is a deep old satisfaction in the returning rains, the satisfaction of a creature who led her herd faithfully through the hard dry season and brought them whole to the mercy of the wet. She has done this so many times, across so many turnings of the year, that the coming of the rains is bound up in her with the whole long shape of her endurance, the proof, season upon season, that the hard times pass and the green returns and the herd goes on. She lifts her great head to the soft falling rain, and she lets it run cool down the long neck, and she is content. The young, who learned the dry season as something strange and hard, learn now the deepest lesson of all, that it ended, that the rains came back, that the green country returned just as the calm of their elders had silently promised. They will carry this knowing through all their long lives. They will meet their own dry seasons, in years the queen will not see, with the same deep calm she carried, because they learned, in this their early turning, the great truth of the valley, that the wheel comes round, that the hard seasons pass, that the rains always, always return. So the green country comes back to the great valley, washed and renewed and lush, the river full, the prairie green, the herd sleek and whole, and the long turning of the year completes its circle and begins, in the slow, soft way of all turnings, to lean toward the next. The wet has returned, the dry is behind, and the old queen leads her trusting, well-fed herd through the soft falling rain with the deep peace of a creature at home in every season of her endless turning world. So let the coming of the rains fall soft and warm through your own rest now, the long dry ended, the green returning, the whole parched world waking gentle to the mercy of the wet. Let the soft rain sink into the dry ground and the green push up tender through the amber, and the river fill, and the herd grow sleek and whole again. The hard season has passed, as hard seasons always pass, and the green country has come back, and you may rest in that soft returning mercy, washed and renewed and easy. As the warm rain falls gentle over the greening valley, rest now in the soft mercy of the returning rains. There is a thing worth resting the mind upon, in the deep calm of the valley, and it is the great age and the great slowness of the world the giants move through. The valley is very old. The river has run its braided course through the green country for longer than any creature could imagine, wearing its channels slow into the patient earth, carrying its quiet song through ages upon ages. The hills that ring the valley have stood through more turnings of the seasons than thought could hold, worn soft and round by the long, slow work of wind and rain across unimaginable time. The world the giants walk is ancient, and it changes so slowly that within a single long life it seems not to change at all. Think how slow the great world turns. The hills wear down not in seasons but in ages. The river shifts its course not in years but in the long, slow passage of uncounted lifetimes. The very shape of the land, the rise of the hills, and the run of the river, and the spread of the green country, was made by forces so patient and so vast that no living thing could ever watch them work. The valley the queen knows is the valley her mother knew, and her mother's mother, back and back through more generations than the herd could ever count, changing so slowly across all that time that it holds, within any single life, the deep steadiness of a thing that does not change. And there is a great peace in this, the peace of the deep and patient world. The giants live their long lives within a world far older and far slower than themselves, a world that was here long before them and will be here long after, vast and patient and enduring. They are held within it, carried along on its slow, deep turning, small even in their hugeness against the great age of the hills and the river and the land. And in that holding there is a deep safety, the safety of belonging to something so much older and so much steadier than any single life. The queen feels this, in her wordless way, in the deep grooves of her long life. She knows the river as a thing that was always there and always will be, the hills as a steadiness that does not fail, the green country as an ancient home that held her kind long before her and will hold them long after. She moves through the deep, patient world with the calm of a creature who belongs to it, who is carried by its slow, deep turning, who rests within its great age, the way a small, warm thing rests within a vast and gentle keeping. The world is old, and she is held within its age, and there is peace in that. Even the great turnings of the seasons, that seem so large within a single year, are small against the deep, slow turning of the world. The wet comes, and the dry comes, and the rains return, the wheel of the year going round, and within a life it is the great rhythm of everything. But the hills do not mark the seasons. The river has run through more wet seasons and more dry than could ever be counted, and it carries its same patient song through all of them, steady beneath the turning year, part of the deeper and slower turning of the ancient world. The seasons turn within the great age, small wheels within the vast, slow wheel of the patient earth. The stars themselves speak of this great age, wheeling slow above the valley night upon night, the same unfamiliar patterns the queen has watched across all her long years, the same the giants watched before her. They turn so slow that within a life they seem fixed, the steady roof of every night, and yet they too move in their own vast slow time, turning through ages so long that no creature could ever mark their changing. They are the deep clock of the patient world, turning above the sleeping valley, marking out a time so vast and so slow that to rest beneath them is to rest within the deep calm of eternity itself. To know this, even dimly, even without words, is to feel the deep safety of the small thing held within the vast. The giants are large, the largest things the valley holds, and yet they are small against the great age of the world, carried along on its slow, deep turning, held within its ancient steadiness. And there is no fear in this smallness, only peace, the deep peace of belonging to something so much older and steadier and more enduring than oneself, of being one small, warm life, held within the vast, slow, patient turning of the ancient world. So the giants move through their days held within the deep and patient world, the old river running, the old hills standing, the old stars wheeling slow above, the great age of everything holding them gentle within its slow, deep turning. They do not hurry, for the world does not hurry. They do not fear, for the world is steady. They live their long lives within the great calm of the ancient valley, for they carried along on its patient turning, held within its deep enduring peace. And this is perhaps the deepest calm the valley holds, deeper than any single season's peace, deeper than the safety of size or the warmth of the herd, the calm of the deep and patient world, the great age and the great slowness of everything, the vast enduring steadiness within which all the small warm lives are held. The river runs, the hills stand, the stars wheel slow, and the whole ancient world turns patient through its deep slow time, holding the giants and the valley and everything within its great and gentle keeping. So let the deep and patient world hold your own rest now, vast and old and steady beneath everything. Let the old river run, and the old hills stand, and the old stars wheel slow above, the great age of everything turning patient through its deep, slow time. You are a small, warm life, held within something vast and ancient and enduring, carried gentle on its slow, deep turning, safe within its great age. There is no hurry in the patient world, and no fear, only the deep, enduring calm of the ancient earth. And you may rest within that calm, held and small and safe, easing slow towards sleep in the great gentle keeping of the deep and patient world. Rest now, held within the vast, slow turning of the ancient valley. When the green country has fully returned, and the easy abundance of the wet lies over the whole valley, the queen leads the herd, in the slow, unhurried way of all her leadings, toward a particular place she has known since her own beginning. It lies in a wide, warm hollow at the gentle edge of the valley, where the ground is soft and sandy and the sun falls full and steady through the day, a place sheltered from the worst of the wind and warmed deep by the long hours of light. It is the nesting ground, where her kind have come to lay their eggs season upon season, generation upon generation, longer than any memory could hold. She came here herself, once, when she was new, a small thing breaking from the warm shell into the bright wide world. She does not remember it, not as memory, but the place is bound into her all the same, drawn into the deep grooves of her long life, so that she returns to it now the way water returns to its old channels, by a knowing older than thought. The great cows of the herd who carry the next generation move with her toward the warm hollow, drawn by the same deep pull, the slow ancient turning of their kind toward the making of new life. The nesting ground is a quiet place, and a gentle one. The soft sand holds the day's warmth deep into the night, a slow, stored heat that will cradle the eggs through all the long weeks of their waiting. The great cows move slowly across the hollow, choosing their places with a care that needs no thought, settling at last each to her own patch of warm ground, where she will scrape with her great feet a wide, shallow hollow in the soft sand, a cradle prepared for the eggs to come. The work is slow and unhurried, the deep, patient labour of giants preparing for new life. There is no haste in any of it, and no anxiety. The making of the nests goes on across the warm days, in the same slow rhythm as all the herd's life, the great bodies moving gentle across the hollow, the soft sand scraped and shaped, the cradles prepared one by one in the warm, sheltered ground. The queen moves among them, not nesting now, for her nesting years are behind her, but present all the same, her old calm presence steadying the whole gentle work, the matriarch overseeing, in her wordless way, the renewal of her line. When the nests are ready, the eggs come. The great cows settle to their warm cradles, and in the deep, slow process of their kind, they lay their eggs into the prepared hollows, the smooth, pale shells gathering in the soft, warm sand, each one holding within it a small, folded life waiting to begin. There are many of them, for the valley is generous and the giants lay in plenty, and the warm hollow fills slowly with the clustered pale eggs, gathered in their sandy cradles under the full warm sun. Then, with the same slow care, the cows cover them. Soft sand and warm earth and the gentle litter of the valley are drawn over the clustered eggs, a covering blanket that will hold the warmth in and the danger out, that will cradle the small folded lives through all the long weeks of their growing in the dark. The eggs disappear beneath the warm covering, hidden and safe, and the nesting ground becomes a place of quiet mounds in the soft sand, each one a cradle of waiting life, warmed by the sun above and the stored heat below, and the sun does the slow, patient work of the warming. Through the long, bright days, the warmth pours down into the sandy mounds, and the stored heat rises through them from below, and the eggs lie cradled between the two warmths, neither too hot nor too cold, held in the gentle, steady heat that the soft sand keeps so faithfully. The valley itself becomes the great, slow incubator of the next generation, the warm hollow holding the eggs as tenderly as any creature could, through all the long weeks of their hidden growing. The herd does not leave the nesting ground. They settle in around the warm hollow, browsing the green growth at its edges, drinking from the nearby water, keeping their great slow vigil over the cradled eggs. The queen takes her old place among them, her long watchful patience turned now toward the sandy mounds, the matriarch guarding the future of her line as she has guarded so much else, asking nothing, simply present, the great calm keeper of the warm hidden eggs. So the nesting ground settles into its long quiet waiting. the eggs cradled warm in the soft sand, the herd gathered slow and patient around them, the sun pouring down its steady warmth through the green and generous days. There is a deep peace in it, the peace of life renewing itself in the oldest and gentlest of ways, the giants returning to the warm hollow as they have always returned, the next generation gathering unseen in the warm dark of the sandy cradles. So let the nesting ground hold its warm quiet, waiting through your own rest now. Let the soft sand cradle the pale eggs, warmed from above and below, and the great patient herd gather slow around the warm hollow under the generous sun. The next generation gathers hidden in the warm dark, safe and cradled and slowly growing, and the old queen keeps her gentle watch over it all. And you may rest in that warm waiting, cradled and safe and slowly easing towards sleep, as the warm sand holds the eggs and the herd keeps its patient peace. Rest now, in the warm quiet of the nesting ground. The weeks of the long guarding are the slowest and most peaceful of all the herd's year. Nothing much happens, and that is the deep gift of them. The eggs lie cradled warm in the soft sand, and the herd gathers patient around the nesting ground, and the days pass in a long, unbroken calm, each one much like the last, the slow, warm rhythm of waiting laid gently over the whole green hollow. It is a time of quiet, a time of keeping, a time when the whole herd's life draws inward around the hidden eggs and simply waits. The queen keeps the heart of the guarding. Through the long, warm days she settles near the sandy mounds, her great old body a steady presence over the cradled eggs, her slow, watchful patience turned toward the hidden life. She does not do much. There is not much to do. The sun and the sand do the work of the warming, and the eggs grow in their own slow time, and the queen's part is only to be there, vast and calm and faithful, the great keeper at the edge of the warm hollow through all the long weeks of the waiting. The herd browses easy around the nesting ground, never straying far, the green growth at the hollow's edges feeding them through the long guarding. They move out a little in the cool of the morning to feed and to drink, and they drift back through the warm day to settle again around the cradled eggs, and the slow tidal rhythm of their feeding and returning becomes the gentle pulse of the guarding weeks. The valley feeds them and the warm hollow holds them, and they keep their patient circle around the hidden future of their line. There is a tenderness in the long guarding that runs deeper than any drama could. It is the tenderness of waiting, of keeping, of the great patient love that asks nothing and simply stays. The giants cannot tend the eggs as smaller creatures tend their young, cannot warm them with their own bodies or turn them or fuss over them. They can only stay near, only keep their great slow vigil at the edge of the warm hollow, only guard the cradled eggs with the steady fact of their vast presence. And that staying, that keeping, is its own deep form of love. The cool of the night settles over the nesting ground, but the warm sand holds the day's heat deep, and the cradled eggs stay warm through the dark. The herd settles around the hollow as the stars wheel up, the great bodies resting easy in the warm night, the queen keeping her long, soft watch as she keeps it every night. Her old attention turned now toward the sandy mounds where the next generation grows unseen. The insects drone, the river murmurs, the stars turn slow above the warm hollow, and the long guarding goes on through the peaceful dark. Day by slow day, though nothing can be seen of it, the small lives within the eggs grow toward their beginning. In the warm dark of the cradled shells, the folded forms take shape, the small bodies growing, the small hearts beating, the small lives gathering slowly toward the day they will break the shell and meet the bright, wide world. It happens silently, hidden beneath the warm sand, through all the long weeks of the guarding, the patient miracle of the next generation gathering itself in the warm dark, while the great herd keeps its watch above. The queen feels the weeks turning, as she feels all turnings, and something old in her stirs toward the coming hatching. She has guarded so many of these waitings, has kept watch over so many warm hollows, has seen so many generations break from the warm sand into the bright world. The long guarding is bound up in her with the whole deep rhythm of her life, the patient keeping that comes between the laying and the hatching, the quiet weeks of waiting that she has lived through more times than any creature could count. And she keeps this one as faithfully as she has kept them all. Nothing disturbs the long guarding. The valley lies easy in the green abundance of the wet. The danger keeps its distance from the great gathered herd, and the warm weeks pass in their unbroken calm. It is the most peaceful time of all the year, this slow patient waiting around the cradled eggs, and the whole herd seems to feel the deep quiet of it, settling into the long guarding as into a kind of held breath, a gentle pause in the turning of their lives, while the next generation gathers in the warm dark. So the long guarding wears slowly on, warm and patient and unbroken, the eggs growing hidden in the soft sand, the herd keeping its great slow circle, the queen faithful at the heart of the keeping. There is no haste in it and no fear, only the deep peace of waiting, the long tender vigil of giants over the cradled future of their line, the most quiet and gentle time in all the valley's turning year. So let the long guarding hold its warm patient peace through your own rest now. Let the eggs grow slow and hidden in the soft warm sand, and the great herd keep its gentle circle, and the old queen hold her faithful watch over the cradled future. Nothing hurries, nothing fears. There is only the deep tender peace of waiting, the long warm vigil of the keeping weeks. And you may rest in that same patient peace, held and kept and easing slow towards sleep, as the warm sand cradles the hidden lives and the great herd keeps its quiet watch. Rest now in the warm peace of the long guarding. At the end of the long guarding, when the warm weeks have done their slow patient work, the hatching comes to the nesting ground, and it is the gentlest of all beginnings. It does not come all at once, and it does not come with any noise or rush. It begins with the faintest stirring deep in the warm sand, a small movement within one of the cradled eggs, the first soft straining of a small life toward the bright world. And then, very slowly, the first small crack appears in the first pale shell, hidden still beneath the warm covering, the first soft sign of the new generation beginning. The small ones work their way free in their own slow time. There is no hurry in it, no struggle that the watching herd could see, only the patient, soft labour of small lives breaking gently from the shells that held them. One by one across the warm hollow, the eggs begin to stir, the small cracks spreading, the warm sand shifting faintly as the small bodies work their way up through the covering toward the light. It happens across the long warm hours, slow and soft and unhurried, the whole nesting ground waking gradually to new life. And then the first of them breaks the surface of the warm sand and meets the bright wide world, a small thing, impossibly small beside the vast bodies of the herd, blinking in the soft gold light, taking its first breath of the warm valley air. It is perfect and complete, a small, flawless echo of the giants around it, the long neck and the great body and the column legs all there in miniature, ready already to begin the long, slow growing toward the hugeness of its kind. It is new to the world, and the world receives it gently, in the warm, soft light of the green valley. More follow, all across the warm hollow, the small ones breaking from the sand into the light, one and then another, and then many, the nesting ground filling slowly with new life. They are wobbly at first, uncertain on their small new legs, blinking and soft and tender, but they are whole and they are strong, and within their first hours they find their footing, the small legs steadying, the small bodies learning the warm solid feel of the valley ground. The hatching spreads across the warm hollow through the long gold day, life waking out of the warm sand in gentle plenty. The herd receives them with the great slow tenderness of their kind. The vast bodies move careful now, careful as they always are around the small and the new, the great feet set with the old deliberate gentleness so that no small life comes to harm beneath them. The great cows draw near to the small ones with a slow, soft attention, and the whole herd seems to soften further still around the newly hatched, the deep, ancient care of the giants for their young, settling like a warmth over the whole nesting ground. The queen comes among the new ones with the deepest tenderness of all. The old matriarch, who guarded the long waiting, who kept the faithful watch over the cradled eggs, lowers her great head now toward the small new lives breaking from the warm sand, and something in her vast old presence gentles toward them. She has seen so many hatchings, has watched so many generations break from the warm hollow into the light, and each one stirs in her the same deep ancient tenderness, the great old love of the matriarch for the new beginning of her line. The small ones, new to everything, find in the great calm bodies around them their first deep safety. They do not fear the giants, for the giants are gentleness itself toward them. They press in close to the vast warm legs. They shelter beneath the great slow bodies. They take from the herd the same deep safety. The half-grown take, the safety of the small, held close among the vast and gentle. Within their first hours in the world, they have learned the great truth of the valley, that the giants are their shelter, that among the great bodies they are safe. As the long gold day of the hatching wears toward evening, the nesting ground has become a place of new life. The small ones finding their feet, gathering close to the great bodies, beginning already the long, slow life of the herd. The wet season's abundance lies all around them, the green growth ready to feed them, the warm valley ready to raise them, and the great herd gathered close to keep them safe. They have come into a gentle world, these new small lives, a world of green plenty and great gentle keepers, and they settle into it with the deep ease of the utterly safe. So the hatching completes itself, soft and slow and gentle, the warm sand giving up its cradled lives one by one into the bright world, the small ones finding their feet among the great bodies, the herd softening tender around the new beginning of its line. There is no drama in it and no fear, only the deep, quiet wonder of new life waking gentle into a gentle world, received with the great old tenderness of the giants. So let the hatching wake soft and gentle through your own rest now, the warm sand giving up its small new lives into the soft gold light, the great herd softening tender all around. Let the small ones find their feet among the vast, gentle bodies, safe and held and new to the warm green world. The old queen lowers her great head in her deep ancient tenderness, and the whole valley receives the new beginning gently. And you may rest in that same gentle welcome, new and safe and held, as the small ones settle warm among the giants. Rest now, in the soft wonder of the hatching. In the days after the hatching, the small new ones learn the green valley, and there are few things gentler to rest the mind upon than the first slow steps of the very young into a kind and generous world. They wake into a season of plenty, the wet returned, the prairie green, the river full, and everything around them is soft and warm and ready to receive them. They learn it step by careful step, the small legs steadying, the small bodies strengthening, the whole bright world opening slowly before them in the safe shadow of the great gentle herd. Their first lessons are the simplest and the sweetest. They learn the warm feel of the valley ground beneath their small feet. They learn the green taste of the soft new growth, reaching their small necks to the tender ferns, learning the slow good work of feeding that will fill all their long lives. They learn the cool, sweet taste of the water at the river's gentle edge, kept close and safe by the great bodies as they drink. Step by step, taste by taste, the small ones learn the deep, generous goodness of the world they have woken into. They learn the herd, too, and their place within it. They learn to read the great, slow movements of the vast bodies, to fall into the gentle drift of the herd as it feeds and waters and rests. They learn to shelter beneath the great legs in the heat of the day, to press close to the warm flanks in the cool of the night, to find in the nearness of the giants the deep safety that will keep them all their growing years. The herd teaches them, slow and patient and tender, the great old ways of their kind, and they learn them with the deep eagerness of the very young, and they play in the soft, slow way of small giants. They make their first clumsy gambols across the green prairie, testing their new legs, chasing each other in wide, slow circles through the ferns, tumbling and rising and tumbling again in the bright, safe days. The great bodies of the herd move easy around their play, the gentle keepers of their first wild joy, and the small ones romp and tumble in the green plenty with the pure, untroubled delight of new life in a kind world. There is no sweeter sight in all the valley than the young at their slow, soft play. The queen watches over their first steps with her deep old tenderness. She is too vast and too old to play, but she moves among the young with the great slow care of the matriarch, her old presence a steady warmth at the edge of their bright new lives. She knows what they are too young to know, that the green plenty will turn one day toward the dry, that the world holds hard seasons as well as soft ones, that the long life ahead of them will ask of them all the endurance her own long life has asked of her. But she lets them have their soft beginning. She guards their first gentle days, and asks nothing of them yet but to grow. The half-grown of the herd, the young of earlier seasons, take to the new small ones with a gentleness of their own. They are old enough now to be patient with the very young, to move careful around the small gambolers, to let the little ones shelter near them in the warm nights. The whole herd, from the oldest to the nearly new, draws close around the small beginnings, and the new ones grow up held in that wide circle of gentleness, learning from every age of the herd, the deep old ways of their kind. Day by day, the small ones strengthen and steady. The wobble goes out of their legs, the uncertainty out of their movements, and they begin to keep up easily now, with the slow drift of the herd, no longer needing to be waited for, falling into the great gentle rhythm of the giant's life. They are still small, still tender, still years and years from the hugeness of their kind, but they are sure now, sure on their feet, and sure in the herd, growing strong and easy in the green plenty of the wet. And the valley raises them as it has raised every generation, with its green abundance and its full rivers and its warm gold days, with the deep safety of the great gentle herd and the patient keeping of the old queen. They could not have woken into a kinder world, these small new lives, nor a more generous one, nor one more ready to make them strong. They grow in it day by day, held and safe and well, the next generation of the giants of the valley taking their first slow steps toward their own long lives. So the young learn the green world step by gentle step, fed by its plenty, held by the herd, watched over by the old queen, growing strong and easy in the soft abundant days. There is no hardship in their beginning and no fear, only the deep, generous welcome of a kind world receiving its new lives gently, raising them slow and safe in the green plenty of the wet. So let the first steps of the young move soft and gentle through your own rest now. Let the small new ones learn the warm green world step by careful step, fed by its plenty, held by the great gentle herd, watched over by the old queen's deep tenderness. Let them play their slow, soft play across the green prairie, safe and held and strengthening in the kind, abundant days, and you may rest in that same gentle keeping, new and safe and growing easy, held in the wide, warm circle of the herd. Rest now, among the young, in the green plenty of the kind world. The young grow through the long green season, and their growing is slow and steady and sure, the unhurried strengthening of small giants in a generous world. They do not grow in leaps or sudden spurts, but in the deep, patient way of their kind, a little each day, a little each week, the small bodies lengthening and filling, the small necks reaching higher, the small legs growing strong beneath them. Day by slow day the valley feeds them, and the herd holds them, and they grow, the next generation rising slowly toward the hugeness that waits for them down the long years. They learn more of the world as they grow, season by season, the whole great turning shape of the giant's life unfolding slowly before them. They learn the morning journey to the water and the evening journey back. They learn the high feeding and the low, the tender green of the wet and the tougher growth of the dry. They learn the cool of the night and the warmth of the day, the shelter of the great bodies and the safety of the herd. The valley teaches them all of it, patient and slow, and they learn it deep, the great old knowledge of their kind settling into them as they grow. They meet their first dry season as the year turns, and they meet it held in the calm of their elders. They feel the rains grow rare and the river draw back and the green deepen and dry, and these things are strange to them, new and a little hard, but the great bodies around them are not afraid, and the old queen leads them sure and calm to the good water she has always known. And so the young learn the dry season the way every generation learns it, by following the deep calm of the herd through the golden hard days, and they come through it leaner and stronger and wiser, made ready by the dry for all the dry seasons of their lives. And they meet the returning rains too, the long mercy of the wet coming back to the golden valley, the green returning, the river filling, the easy plenty washing back over the whole wide world. They feel the deep relief of it, the soft falling rain, the green pushing up tender through the amber, and they learn the deepest lesson of all, the lesson the queen has carried all her life, that the hard seasons pass and the green returns and the herd goes on. They will carry this knowing through all their long years. It will steady them through every dry season to come. Season upon season they grow, and the growing is steady and sure. The small ones of the hatching become the half-grown of the next year, no longer the very youngest, learning now to be gentle in their turn, with the new small ones that come. And the half-grown become the young adults, strong and sure and nearly grown, taking their full places in the herd, learning the deep ways of their kind, not as small things sheltering, but as growing giants in their own right. The generations turn, slow and sure, the young rising always toward the great old size of their elders, The queen watches them grow with the deep, slow satisfaction of the matriarch. She has led them from the warm hollow of their hatching through the green plenty of their first season and the golden hardship of their first dry and the long mercy of the rain's return, and she has seen them strengthen and steady and rise, the next generation of her line growing sure and strong in the valley she has kept for them. She is very old now, and growing older, and there is a deep peace for her in watching the young rise, in knowing that the herd will go on after her, that the valley will hold her line long after she herself has gone to rest, for the herd goes on. This is the deep truth beneath all the turning seasons, the great slow certainty that holds the whole valley's life. The old grow older, and the young grow up, and the generations turn, and through all of it the herd endures, the great slow river of the giant's life flowing on through the green country season upon season, year upon year, age upon age. The young the queen has raised will raise young of their own in years she will not see, in the same warm hollow, by the same full river, under the same wheeling stars. The herd goes on, and the valley holds it, and the long turning never ends. There is a deep comfort in this, deeper than any single season's peace. The individual giants live their long lives and grow old, and go at last to their rest, but the herd itself, the great slow flowing life of their kind, endures beyond any single life, carried forward generation by generation through the green and golden turning of the years. The queen will not last forever, but the herd she has led will outlast her, and the young she has raised will lead it on, and the valley will hold the giants long after she is gone, as it held them long before she came. So the young grow through the long turning seasons, steady and sure, learning the deep ways of their kind, rising slowly toward the great old size of their elders, while the generations turn and the herd endures and the valley holds them all. There is no haste in the growing and no fear, only the deep slow certainty of life carrying itself forward, the young rising as the old grow old, the great slow river of the giants flowing on through the endless turning years. So let the growing season turn slow and sure through your own rest now. Let the young grow steady through the green and golden years, learning the deep old ways, rising toward the great size of their elders, while the generations turn and the herd flows on. The old queen watches them rise with her deep slow peace, sure that the herd will go on, sure that the valley will hold her line long after she has gone to rest. And you may rest in that same deep certainty, carried forward in the great slow flowing of life that never ends. Rest now, in the sure slow turning of the growing years. And so we come back, at the last, to the old queen herself, the great matriarch of the valley, in whom all the turning seasons and all the long years gather into a single quiet life. She is very old now, older than any other in the herd, older than the great trees she feeds among, older than any creature of the valley but the slow river and the patient hills. She has walked the green country through more turnings than could ever be counted, and the whole long story of the valley is written into her, season upon season, year upon year, gathered slow into the deep calm of her great old being. Think of all she has seen. The misted mornings beyond number, the gold light failing into evening over the river 1,000 times and more, the green seasons coming and the dry seasons coming after, the rains returning, the wheel of the year turning round and round through all her long life. The hatchings she has guarded, the young she has raised, the generations she has led from the warm hollow of their beginning out into the long life of the herd. All of it is held in her now, the whole slow-turning history of the valley, gathered into the deep, patient calm of the queen. She has known the high green country and the low fern prairie, the river's good places and the long paths between them. She has known the deep pool and the patient watcher in it, the far hunter and the great safety of her own vast size, the plated wanderer and the small hidden things, and the wheeling stars above the warm dark nights. She has known the whole wide shape of the valley's life, every creature and every season and every turning of the days, and she carries all of it now in the deep, slow knowing of her great old being, the living memory of the valley itself, and she has led the herd through all of it with the same deep calm, the same unhurried patience, the same great gentle keeping. She has never hurried and never feared. She has met the hard seasons with the sure knowing that they pass, and the easy seasons with the quiet pleasure of a creature at home in her world. She has guarded the young and watched over the sleeping, and led the herd faithfully to the good water through all the turning years, rosking nothing, keeping everything, the great calm heart of the valley's life. Her size, that kept her safe through all her years, was never a thing of fear or force. It was a gift of peace. So vast that nothing in the valley could threaten her, she lived her whole long life unhurried and unafraid, free to be gentle precisely because she was so great, free to move slow and easy through the world because the world held nothing she needed to fear. Her hugeness was her safety, and her safety was her calm, and her calm spread out from her over the whole herd, the deep untroubled peace of the greatest and gentlest creature in all the valley. She carries within her great body all the quiet marvels of her kind, and they have held her safe and steady through every turning year. The hollow, air-filled bones that lighten the long neck, the slow one-way breath that fills her always with the cool, clean air, the vast warm mass that makes her her own weather, warm in the cold hour, steady through every season, the slow, patient feeding that fills her enormous body from the high green country no other creature can reach. All of it has carried her through her long life, the deep, quiet engineering of the giants, and it carries her still through her old age, slow and steady and sure. Now, in the evening of her long life, she leads the herd a little more slowly than she did, and rests a little more often, and watches the young rise with a deeper and quieter satisfaction. She knows, in the deep, wordless way she has always known the great turnings, that her own long turning draws toward its evening, that the years ahead of her are fewer than the years behind. But there is no fear in this knowing, only a deep, slow peace, the peace of a life well lived, and a herd well kept, and a line that will go on long after she has gone to her rest. For the herd will go on. The young she raised will lead it through the green country in years she will not see. They will guard their own hatchings in the same warm hollow, will lead their own herds to the same good water, will watch their own young rise under the same wheeling stars. And something of the old queen will go on in them, the deep calm she taught them, the great patient keeping she showed them, the sure knowing that the hard seasons pass and the green returns, and the herd endures. She will be gathered, when her time comes, into the long, slow flowing of her kind, and the valley will hold her line forever, as it has held it through all the ages past. She is the queen of the valley, the great old matriarch, the living heart of the herd's long life, and she has kept her valley well. Through all the turning seasons of all her long years she has led her herd with calm and care and gentleness, and now, in her old age, she rests easy in the green country she has kept, watching the young rise, sure of the herd's long going on, at peace in the deep certainty that the valley will hold the giants long after she has gone to her rest. The whole long story of the valley is gathered into her, and she carries it with a deep and quiet peace. So let the old queen settle into her deep evening peace through your own rest now. Let the whole long story of the valley gather quiet into her, all the turning seasons, all the long years, all the hatchings guarded and the young raised, and the herd kept faithfully through the turning of the ages. She is old and calm and unafraid, sure of the herd's long going on, at peace in the green country she has kept so well. And you may rest in that same deep peace, gathered gentle into the long, slow story of the valley, sure and calm and easing now towards sleep. Rest now in the deep evening peace of the Queen of the Valley. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel, as it really helps us continue making more content. Anyways, see you in the next one, and now let the whole valley settle softly around your rest. The long day is behind, and the long night, and all the turning seasons of the year. The Queen has led her herd through the green country and the golden, through the wet and the dry, through the nesting and the hatching and the slow, sure growing of the young. And now there is nothing left to do but rest, here in the warm dark of the Jurassic night, among the sleeping giants beneath the wheeling stars. Let the river murmur soft and steady at the edge of your hearing, the one patient voice that runs through every hour, warm and cool, green and gold, carrying its quiet song beneath everything. Let the insects drone their endless gentle chord across the warm dark. Let the great slow breathing of the giants rise and fall around you, vast and easy, the deep slow rhythm of enormous bodies at rest. Let it all grow soft and softer, fading gently toward the edges of your mind. The Queen sleeps now her deep old sleep, the long watch softened at the last into rest. The great matriarch settled easy on the warm ground among her sleeping kin. The young sleep close against the great warm bodies, safe and held and warm. The whole herd rests together in the soft full dark, the great and the small, the old and the new, gathered into the deep peace of the sleeping valley. And there is room among them for you, small and warm and safe. One more quiet life held gently in the warm dark. Let your breathing fall into the slow, deep rhythm of the giants, easy and unhurried, in and out, slow and slower, soft as the river, soft as the warm night air. There is nothing to do now, and nowhere to be, and nothing to fear. The valley holds you, vast and warm and gentle, and the great bodies breathe around you, and the stars wheel slow above, and the whole wide prehistoric world has settled into its deep soft rest. So rest now. Let the warm dark take you down, soft and slow and gentle, into the deep sleep of the valley. The giants sleep. The river runs. The stars turn slow above the warm green country, and you may rest among them, held and safe and warm, sinking soft and easy into sleep, here in the deep quiet peace of the Jurassic night, watched over by the old queen of the valley until the soft gold morning comes. Rest now. Sleep now. All is warm and all is well, and the whole gentle valley holds you as you sleep. Before you drift off completely, here is something soft to wonder on. Of all the great gentle giants of the valley, which one would you most have wished to rest beside in the warm dark? The patient queen, the plated wanderer, or one of the small new ones taking its first slow steps? Tell me in the comments where in the world you are listening from tonight, and which part of the valley brought you the deepest peace.